protect the medical workers from get infected. So with this knowledge and also the experience of past clinical practice as infectious disease medical workers, we think we had confidence that to know the virus along with the time we deal with it, although we don't know at that time if we can at last conquer it, but we know that we will find a way to efficiently prevent it and treat them.
So let's cross live to Chang'an Avenue. You're watching live footage from Tiananmen Square. This is central Beijing. In a few moments, 4 recipients of the national honors will leave the Jinxi Hotel on the west Chang'an Avenue and heading for the Great Hall of the People in central Beijing to attend a awarding ceremony for those outstanding individuals in the fight against COVID-19. So, Dr. Cao, you talked about you had confidence when you arrived in Wuhan, but what about the improvement of treatment in the whole process? What are the key stages you've encountered?
I think like the timeline after we arrived at Wuhan can be divided into several stages. At the initial stages, we're generally beginning to know the general aspects of the virus and to observe them in clinical practice, how the patient turn out to be and where they will go after we have get this kind of treatment. And then after we have been coping with a number of patients, we gradually get to know their clinical characteristics. We begin to notice what kind of patients will get severely after they have passed a few weeks after acquisition of the virus. And we know maybe at this time we need to put some measures to stop the progression of the disease. And then we have generations of guidelines from the national group to guide the treatment and diagnosis of the disease. And all these experiences have led us to the treatment and cure of some of these patients. And along with this process, we get to know more about the mechanism of the disease. And then multiple clinical trials and methods have been used into clinical practice.
Right, and you're watching live footage from Tiananmen Square in central Beijing. This is a special live coverage on the CGTN on the awarding ceremony for those outstanding individuals contributing to China's fight against COVID-19. Very soon, recipients will head to the Great Hall of the People to receive the awards. Chinese President Xi Jinping will attend the event and deliver a keynote speech, and of course we'll bring you live coverage on that. So Dr. Gao, besides medical research, development, dedication from medical professionals, how important is a nation's governance capability in dealing with such a severe pandemic? For example, the lockdown of Wuhan at very early stage of this outbreak. The journal Science published an article in April in which researchers said Wuhan's lockdown, timely lockdown, may have prevented 700,000 cases.
Well, the fight against COVID-19 pandemic is one of the most important public health fight in more than 100 years. And in any fight, to know yourself and to know your enemy is the key. And in this particular case, back in late December last year, in January and February this year, this virus was something very, very strange. It was not known to start with. It was getting to be known gradually. And I think it's really thanks to all the doctors and scientists to work so hard and committedly to better and more understand the nature of this virus. And I would say mankind still do not fully understand this virus because it is very peculiar, it's very, very strange, and it impacts on different people in a very different way. For example, age group or conditions of the persons involved. And I think the key is to put science first, and then the government need to really mobilize and adopt a very affirmative action. And I think China is lucky that the government is doing the job and the whole society is mobilized. No one is left out of this whole thing, including, for example, the unprecedented complete lockdown of Wuhan city and virtually the lockdown of Hubei province, a province with about 60 million people. And I think in any other parts of China, almost people of all nationalities everywhere in China have been mobilized. People like me in Beijing, we are fully impacted upon. We experienced a lot of inconveniences, but these inconveniences are absolutely necessary in order to make sure that the fight against the pandemic is a complete success. So the government really is going to take a big credit in history.
Right, now you're watching a live coverage on CGTN. This is live footage from Tiananmen Square, an awarding ceremony for the outstanding individuals and organizations during China's fight against the COVID-19 will start very soon at the Great Hall of the People. That is the Great Hall of the People in Tiananmen Square. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping signed a presidential order on August the 11th to recognize the special contributions of 4 Chinese individuals in the fight against COVID-19, and they will participate in the Tuesday morning's ceremony. The Dr. Zhong Nanshan, Dr. Zhang Boli, Dr. Zhang Dingyu, and Dr. Chen Wei. Now, the convoy of the recipients are heading for the Great Hall of the People. This is live footage from West Chang'an Avenue. From the size of the convoy, we can tell that the country has given the highest honor to those outstanding individuals in the fight against COVID-19. Dr. Zhong Nanshan, China's top respiratory expert. Behind Dr. Zhong Nanshan is Dr. Zhang Dingyu, and this is Dr. Zhang Boli. Behind Dr. Zhang is Chen Wei. So Dr. Zhong Nanshan, a renowned infectious disease and respiratory expert, he will be presented with the Medal of the Republic, the highest national honor. Zhong Nanshan announced the existence of human-to-human transmission of the coronavirus in January and helped to compile the national prevention and control measures as well as diagnosis and treatment plans. 3 other individuals, Dr. Zhang Boli, Dr. Zhang Dingyu, and Dr. Chen Wei, are to be awarded the national honorary title of People's Hero for their roles in COVID-19 treatment and vaccine research and development. Also, late in August, China's Central Party Authority announced it will honor 1,500 individuals and 500 institutions and groups for their contributions. The work of another 200 party members and 150 party organizations is also being recognized. So let's talk about the 4 recipients of the nation's highest honor. Dr. Gao, we got familiar with Dr. Zhong Nanshan during the SARS outbreak in 2003, and this time, let's remember, he is 84 years old now, a quite senior age, but the nation was caught up by this picture. He was on an overnight train into Wuhan almost immediately after the outbreak was confirmed. What do you make of this kind of dedication?
Well, I think in the fight against this pandemic, I think truthfulness and the courage to speak the truth and tell the truth is actually a very important part of the overall success against the pandemic. And I think Dr. Zhong is fully trusted by the whole nation for telling the truth, for leaving no facts behind in his commitment to tell the truth to the whole country. And I think this spirit is so important back in early January because, as I mentioned, this virus in January was still largely unknown and no one knew the total picture about the virus. And then depending on which perspective you adopt, which angle you look at it, this virus may present different things. However, I think Dr. Zhong Nanshan, based on his personal experience and track record and his commitment to really know the truth, he went to the front line and he talked to the doctors involved on the site, and then he told the truth that this virus could be transmitted from person to person. This was a major breakthrough because the telling of the truth of person-to-person transmission had its consequences, had its implications on society, on economy, for example. And I think this would be a very key link in leading towards the complete lockdown of Wuhan. So I think in retrospect, all of us, mankind as a whole, are so grateful to the courage and the vision and the telling of the truth by Dr. Zhong Nanshan on this very important point.
Dr. Zhong Nanshan there. You're watching live footage from the Chang'an Avenue. 4 recipients of the nation's highest honor are heading for the Great Hall of the People. That's Dr. Zhang Dingyu. He's the president of Jinyingtan Hospital in Wuhan. So, Dr. Cao, tell us more professionally about these 4 recipients' dedication and contribution to the fight against the COVID-19. Let's start with Dr. Zhong Nanshan.
I think they are playing their, apart from what Dr. Gao just mentioned, to telling the truth, another important thing is that every one of them is doing their job perfectly during the epidemic, and sometimes stay to your job and accomplish them properly is a very key measure to success. So, for example, Dr. Zhong Nanshan, apart from telling the truth that that the virus is transmissible from people to people, he always took the lead in diagnosis and designing the treatment profiles for this kind of disease. And also he went to the bed to see patients by himself. Although he's already 84 years old, he is dedicated himself to the front line to get the first-hand materials and knowledge from the patients, and then put them into the development of national guidelines.
And that's Dr. Zhang Boli there. Tell us more about traditional Chinese medicine's role in this fight against COVID-19, because he is the person leading this bit, and also Dr. Chen Wei there.
Yeah. We have seen a great impact of traditional Chinese medicine in this epidemic. As a doctor of Western medicine, I also respect traditional medicine. I think both Western medicine and traditional medicine are playing their own role in this epidemic, especially in treating those mildly or moderate diseased patients. Traditional medicine were playing a very great role in Fangcang Shelter Hospital. They worked well in preventing the patients from progressing into a severe period. Yeah.
What about Dr. Chen Wei's contribution?
Okay, she actually represents the fast response of China scientists to respond to an unknown virus, because the vaccine will be the ultimate weapon we use to conquer this virus from the past experience of the history. And this time, our quick response and through phase 1, phase 2, and now the phase 3 experiments, clinical trials of this vaccine also show our capacity as Chinese scientists to generate a vaccine against a new virus in a relatively short time.
So during your experience in Wuhan, fighting at front line of dealing with this COVID-19 outbreak, what was the single biggest challenge at a starting stage? Is it the lack of specific medicines, or it's the lack of experience?
I think at first lack of medical supplies was there, but it was quickly recovered from the medical supplies from all of the nation, because all the country has been motivated.
But what about the specific medicines for this unknown virus?
I think we are still on search for that. Right now, we have some progress from antiviral medicines from all of the world. However, China has won the success of combating COVID-19 without a ready antiviral regimen at that time. So at the point of China's combat, actually the ancient wisdom of infection control has taken their role.
Tell us more about this ancient wisdom and how does it fit into this modern context?
Well, for each infectious disease, no matter what kind it belongs to, there are always three things we need to pay attention to. The first is control of the infection, the source of infection. That is means to identify and find every patient you can find and isolate them to prevent secondary infection. And the second is to cut the transmission route. In our country, we did that through the treatment of the infected patients, and also all the people in China has been well known about wearing masks.
And as we're discussing
yeah.
this, the 4 recipients have arrived at the Great Hall of the People, the venue of the upcoming awarding ceremony for outstanding individuals in China's fight against COVID-19. You can see at the Great Hall of the People, a warm welcoming ceremony is underway. People from all walks of life and youngsters are welcoming the 4 recipients of the nation's highest honor. Dr. Zhong Nanshan, he will be presented with the Medal of the Republic, the highest national honor. Dr. Zhong Nanshan has arrived at Great Hall of the People now. He's stepping into the venue of an upcoming awarding ceremony. He is welcomed by senior officials of the country and party. This is youngsters chanting that heroes of the nation will pay tribute to you. This is Dr. Zhang Dingyu. He is the president of Wuhan's Jinyingtan Hospital, a hospital dedicated to infectious disease and epidemic treatment. We must mention that Dr. Zhang is suffering from ALS, and you can tell from his walking posture. And this disease has been troubling him for recent years, but this didn't stop him from fighting at the front line of this battle against the COVID-19 outbreak. Dr. Chen Wei there, she is leading China's research in a COVID-19 vaccine. They're all welcomed by senior officials at the Great Hall of the People. This is a welcoming ceremony for the 4 recipients of China's highest honor. At the Great Hall of the People, the awarding event will come up very soon. And in a few minutes, Chinese President Xi Jinping will meet with awardees at the Great Hall of the People and take group pictures together. Thereafter, the awarding ceremony will start at around 10 Beijing time. President Xi Jinping will present medals to outstanding individuals. He will also deliver a keynote speech. CGTN will keep you updated on that. Stay tuned.
You're watching breaking news on CGTN.
Xinjiang, a crossroads of Asia and a trade hub on the ancient Silk Road. A sixth of China's territory, it's now home to 25 million people of different ethnicities. In this series, CGTN explores the length and breadth of this geographically and ethnically diverse region. For 4 weeks, we'll bring our 5,000-mile journey to you live. Join us as we travel through history, document modern-day Xinjiang, and reveal its natural beauty and discover what makes the region so distinctive. Amazing Xinjiang on CGTN.
You're watching a special live coverage on CGTN. In a few minutes, Chinese President Xi Jinping will meet recipients and take group pictures together for the awarding ceremony on outstanding individuals in China's fight against COVID-19. We'll keep you updated on that, but now Zhongshi joins us with more global updates. Hello, Zhongshi.
Good morning, Pandan. Absolutely, as China honors its heroes in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic, let's also get you caught up with what's making headlines around the world today. Dozens of people were arrested as protests against racial injustice spread across the United States during the end of summer holiday weekend. And some of the rallies prompted armed counter demonstrations in support of President Donald Trump, who sees the protests as a breakdown of public order. Our Owen Fairclough has more.
It's no longer just US cities burning over racial injustice. As the Oregon city of Portland marked 100 consecutive days of protests during a summer of fury triggered by African American deaths involving police officers. The latest in Rochester, upstate New York. Daniel Prude died during arrest. The appointment of a grand jury investigation and the suspension of the officers allegedly responsible, not enough to calm these streets.
If this stuff comes to your backyard, you got to take a stand, fight there.
And a sometimes armed minority of protesters are attracting equally armed counter-demonstrators like these in Louisville, Kentucky, where Breonna Taylor was shot dead by police in her home in March.
This ain't about hating anybody. This isn't about us saying, I don't like you because of the color of your skin. This is simply put as American patriots saying, here's the line.
A message reinforced by President Trump.
To stop the political violence, we must also confront the radical ideology that includes this violence.
And Trump's focus on the minority of lawbreakers, rather than those peacefully demanding systemic change for African Americans, appears to be a calculated strategy, less than 2 months before voters decide if he deserves another term. Owen Fairclough, CGTN.
And let's stay in the United States for now. Crews continue to battle dozens of wildfires in several states in the West. California has been hit especially hard, and hazardous weather conditions are worsening the situation. And we get this report from John Lawrence.
A pyrocumulus cloud hovering over California caused by major wildfires this Labor Day weekend. According to CAL FIRE, more than 2 million acres in the state have been scorched thus far this year, a record, and things aren't likely to ease anytime soon.
3 of the 4 largest fires in California history are burning right now. And the heat in triple digits, off the charts for even September, and we're not even close to the peak of the wildfire season.
The El Dorado fire in the San Bernardino area and the fast-moving Valley fire in Hapatul has some residents getting ready to evacuate.
It just exploded and came up to almost where it's at now. And it just, the intensity of the heat is just crazy.
Down over that hill, there's a lot of houses. It's been sitting there for a while, and now it's starting to move.
The creek fire is spreading rapidly through the Sierra National Forest, where the California National Guard rescued more than 220 people who were trapped in the Mammoth Pool Reservoir Recreation Area.
To see all of the interagency partners come together with the amount of resources, with the uncertainty of what was actually going to come off the helicopter, there were plenty of resources to ensure that all were provided the care that they needed.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the Pacific, South Korea has been battered by another typhoon. The large port city of Busan was among the hardest hit. Let's get an update from our correspondent, Jack Barton.
Hundreds of planes were grounded, trains were cancelled, ships recalled to port, and many South Koreans living in low-lying areas evacuated to higher ground. Those who stayed to face Typhoon Haishen employed techniques developed during what has been the wettest rainy season on record, topped by 3 typhoons in as many weeks.
This is the 3rd time it's flooded this year.
We just push in the sandbags to prevent water from coming in.
But sandbags could only do so much.
Water has flooded all the underground of this apartment.
There was extensive damage to businesses in Ulsan, where Typhoon Haishen made landfall, as well as Busan, which took an indirect hit when the winds were at their strongest.
It happened because of the wind. It just couldn't hold. Some parts of the building fell off.
Tens of thousands of homes temporarily lost power. Crews worked fast in the tail of the typhoon to get electricity reconnected. Search and rescue teams were ever present, all part of a massive government effort to mitigate damage and tragedy during the typhoon, on top of preparations carried out over the past few days. As a precautionary measure, the South Korean government slowly released excess water from 20 dams across the country to ensure they did not overflow as a result of the deluge caused by this, the 2nd typhoon to strike South Korea in a week. As the typhoon moved north, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea also provided live coverage of the devastation, which was clearly widespread, despite the fact Haishen travelled offshore along most of its coastline. Jack Barton, CGTN, Busan.
In Egypt's economy is largely dependent on its small and medium-sized enterprises, and the government says it's looking to benefit from China's experience in creating jobs in this very sector. We get more details from CGTN's Yasser Hakim.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has met his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah el-Sisi 7 times in the last 5 years. It's a reflection of the strong ties between both nations. These ties have been translated into growing economic cooperation. In spite of the constraints of the COVID pandemic, economic trade has reached a respectable $5.2 billion in 2020. It makes China Egypt's top trading partner, raking 11% of Cairo's total trade with the world.
We didn't expect to reach half the amount of trade due to the 3-month lockdown. This is because the base of cooperation is strong and there's been a long-term strategy to strengthen this partnership between the 2 governments. As for Egypt's imports, the first thing that comes to mind are toys, shoes, clothes and vehicles. Raw materials for means of production constitute 80% of imports from China. We export fruits to China, textiles, aluminium. We are now working on a new variety of products for the trade between the 2 governments.
But what Egyptian officials want to focus on as well are investments, especially in these small and medium-sized enterprises. This sector is seen as the backbone of economic growth, employing thousands of its citizens. And the North African country plans to benefit from Beijing's vast experience in this field.
China's economic success has been based on SMEs. The successful emerging multinationals that are competing all over the world have started as SMEs and startups. It's a smart move from Egypt to try benefit from China's success. While China believes we have good potential, manufacturing is crucial for Egypt. High-tech and latest technology is something Egypt wants to adopt from China, as well as new ideas of projects for SMEs.
The Central Bank of Egypt has pumped billions of Egyptian pounds during the year to protect SMEs from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. With the help of China, the next phase is about better quality projects and more advanced technologies. Yasser Hakim, for CGTN, Cairo.
And these are the world stories we're following for you now. Our special coverage on an award ceremony that honors China's pandemic fighting heroes continues on CGTN. And for that, let me hand things back to my colleague, Pan Dong.
Thank you very much, my colleague Zhong Shi there. You're watching a special live coverage on CGTN. Stay with us. You're watching CGTN. We continue with our special live coverage from the Great Hall of the People and a ceremony to honor outstanding individuals and organizations in China's fight against COVID-19. Chinese President Xi Jinping will attend the ceremony and present medals and deliver a keynote speech. In the studio, we're joined by our guests, Dr. Victor Gao, Chair Professor at Suzhou University, and Dr. Cao Wei, Deputy Head of the Infectious Disease Department at Peking Union Medical College Hospital. She works in Wuhan during the outbreak earlier this year. Now, over the past 8 months, CGTN has been covering the pandemic for our global audience, bringing a diverse array of stories and perspectives. Our next report looks back on the work of our reporting team in Wuhan.
A march into the unknown, to tell the story of a city's battle against a novel and deadly virus. In early January, CGTN sent reporters to Wuhan, the epicenter of China's COVID-19 outbreak. As the situation worsened, they were joined by dozens more staff. Despite the lockdown, our reporters went to nearly every district of the city, including some with high rates of transmission.
We are now heading to the Xiehe Hospital.
The team filmed scores of people for its series Wuhan Faces, patients and medical staff, community workers, volunteers and psychological counselors, focusing on lives being affected.
Facts to our general public, to the international audience.
CGTN became a window into the city at the heart of China's coronavirus outbreak, weeks before it became a global pandemic.
What's happening there on the ground?
Honorary, so Wuhan.
More than 24 overseas media organizations, including BBC, Fox, RT, and TRT, spoke live to CGTN reporters for the latest news and views on the spread of the disease and on prevention and control efforts. A month after the lockdown of Wuhan, CGTN reporters ran a 30-minute documentary demonstrating the tireless efforts of frontline workers and the extraordinary measures being taken by authorities to keep residents safe. It was the first long documentary. While hundreds of patients were sent to intensive care units for emergency treatment, CGTN ran another documentary on what it was like inside these highly stressful zones, and a half-year review of China's fight against COVID-19 will be aired this week.
What would be your
As the pandemic situation eased in China, frontline doctors shared their first-hand experiences with the world.
Personal protective? Wear goggles and also protective screens.
As many experienced Chinese medical staff went abroad to help countries in need, CGTN reporters were also there.
This is the newest and the largest hospital in Sudan. It started.
We honor the sacrifices and share the happiness and tears. And the story continues.
Go Yunfei is one of the CGTN reporters who were in Wuhan to cover the epidemic control and lockdown. He has been honored as an outstanding individual in the fight against COVID-19. His new documentary, The Frontline, China's Fight Against the COVID-19, looks at the country's coronavirus response since late December. CGTN will broadcast it in the coming days. Now let's cross live to our reporter Zhou Jiaxing in the central Chinese city of Wuhan. Hello Jiaxing, you covered the outbreak in Wuhan earlier this year and you've been monitoring the situation there since the lockdown was lifted. So what is it like to go back there now after all the city has been through?
Yes, Pandan. Standing on this overpass where many CGTN reporters have been telling the world about developments here at the epicenter of China's COVID-19 outbreak, I feel so proud to be among them, as we saw just now, and grateful to all those frontline healthcare workers who helped Wuhan return to normal. We were the first to witness the city's unprecedented lockdown, the surging numbers of patients in hospitals, and the dire shortage of medical supplies. And we listened to complaints about the shortage of hospital beds, about how hard it was to get satisfactory food, and about hiking price when supplies became scarce. We followed infected patients who fought the virus. We followed construction workers who sacrificed their family reunion holidays to build temporary hospitals. And we followed medical personnel from across China who gave all possible support to Hubei province, our nation's hardest hit region. We also followed migrant workers stranded here in Wuhan during the lockdown and how they got on with their lives. And we followed the volunteers who helped expand prevention and control efforts while providing individual services. We followed families who lost loved ones and people who were reunited with family members after they recovered. These were big and unforgettable moments for each of us, and these are the memories, some cherished, some tragic, that we brought back with us to Wuhan. You know, Wuhan lifted its lockdown on April 8th. Before that day, none of us knew when that might happen and when we might complete our assignments here. None of us had ever witnessed the lockdown of an entire city, let alone the one with a population over 10 million. Transportation and all sorts of businesses were suspended, and streets were silent and empty. And right here, we would feel cold and alone doing a live report for an evening show, but something helped us feel warm inside. That tall building down the street behind us, the scrolling Chinese characters all lit up red, "Cheer up Wuhan, cheer up China," and many buildings across this city display that same confidence and optimism, and it spread. The city has reported no new local cases since mid-May, as local officials conduct mass COVID testing, and schools then reopened, so did restaurants and other public places. In August, a pool party here made international headlines, and local government officials also promoted a week-long beer festival to celebrate the city's revival and stimulate the local economy, inviting travelers to provincial scenic spots for free. And over the past month, Wuhan estimates an increase of 34% in tourists year on year. Worth mentioning, Wuhan's must-see show featuring acrobatics, dances, and stunts is kicking off this Thursday in the city's most extraordinary auditorium, where the local auto giant Dongfeng launched its world-class EV brands in late July. And this month, students ranging in age from kindergarten to college returned to their classrooms. And last week, more than 20,000 samples were also collected from supermarkets and farm-produced markets. All came back negative. So I just say the city is doing more than coming back. It is rolling back, boosted by stimulus policies and investment opportunities. Back to Pandan.
Thank you very much, our reporter Zhou Jiaxing in the central Chinese city of Wuhan. Now we turn to what's happening in Beijing. Dr. Zhong Nanshan, the recipient of the Medal of the Republic, and other 3 awardees of the honorary title People's Hero have arrived at Great Hall of the People in central Beijing. They will be soon presented with their national honors. The quartet are being honored for their contributions in China's fight against COVID-19. Now, for more insights, let's talk to our studio guests. So, Dr. Gao, we just heard reporters' experience in Wuhan during the whole outbreak. So, let's continue this topic a little bit. How important is it to conveying truth and facts in such a global pandemic?
Well, it is the most important thing. Why? Because, as I mentioned, back in December last year and early beginning of this year, including January and February, this virus was not known to mankind, and it really required a lot of effort from the scientists, virologists, medical experts of all kinds to really zoom in to discover the genome sequencing and many other aspects. And then, as Dr. Chao just now mentioned, there is no cure for this pandemic, and you need to really figure out how to deal with that and how to cut off the spread chain and make sure that less people are infected. And I think it really takes a whole lot of work of all kinds involving society as a whole. And I would say, in this particular respect, science should trump everything else. And in this particular respect, I think these 4 recipients today, as well as thousands of other medical staff, including Dr. Cao sitting next to me. I'm so honored to be sharing this panel with her because she went to the front line, she participated in saving lives, and she spent about 3 months in Wuhan during the darkest days and weeks of this fight against the coronavirus. I think without all this sacrifice, commitment, scientific dedication, and professionalism, we could not achieve fighting off this pandemic, one of the largest scale public hazard that mankind has faced for more than 100 years. We are so grateful. So I think I'm very delighted today, very honored today to be sitting with you and Dr. Cao in commemorating this big award ceremony today. I think the whole Chinese nation are grateful.
Yes, indeed. And as we're talking about this, you're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People in central Beijing. So, Dr. Cao, I'd like to talk a little bit more about your work in Wuhan, because besides saving lives of the people of Wuhan, you also attended lots of webinars with your global colleagues. So, from that experience, what are the biggest challenges, would you say, for developing countries who are also suffering from this outbreak?
Well, we didn't imagine that this would be one of the major tasks we were in Wuhan, but with the progression of the pandemic, more and more countries are experiencing the same situation as we, China, experienced at the first few months. So when we talked through internet with our peer medical workers or doctors from all over the world, including the US, England, Iraq, or other places, we noticed that they are facing with the same problems we were at the first few months. And it was kind of like interesting and to share our views with them and to tell them what we know about the virus, because the Chinese physicians at that time were the group of people who knows most about this virus in the world. And we were very pleased that we can share the insights of these patients' care. Although different countries may have different situations at that time, and the lockdown cities were not possible in many other places in the world. However, the sharing of knowledge will no doubt enhance their treatment of patients in their own country and will finally contribute to the mankind.
And what are the frequently asked questions for you back then, and what are the responses you've been receiving? Are those countries you just mentioned getting more confident or stronger in fighting this virus?
Yes, like in the first few episodes, the most asked question is, can we reuse the masks? How do we deal with the shortage of medical supplies? And how do we protect ourselves as medical workers? because to protect ourselves is the first priority before we try to treat and help others. And then with the progression of the pandemic, doctors in other areas began to know something about the virus. Then the problems more specifically falling, how do I care this kind of patients? How do I identify patients that could possibly progress to a more severe form? And what kind of measures do we use to treat the patients in ICU, etc.? And then we may come to a point that we can exchange ideas and knowledge of these patients. So knowledge is growing all over the world.
Exactly, knowledge is growing, but as a medical professional, when you look at global discourse regarding this pandemic, have you felt any danger or threat posed by disinformation?
Yes, but I should say this kind of disinformation has now improved in such an environment of internet and information, but still the online communication is a small part of the source of information that medical workers or scientists can get. The more information actually, as Dr. Gao just mentioned, comes from your patient, and that is the truth of the virus. So to commit that this is the truth, and then to observe your patient at your bedside, maybe is the most important thing when you try to dealing with the virus.
Now you're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People in central Beijing. This is live footage from inside Great Hall of the People. Chinese President Xi Jinping is about to meet recipients of the nation's highest honor. And outstanding individuals and organizations are being awarded the nation's highest honor for their contribution in China's fight against COVID-19. Again, this is live footage from inside the Great Hall of the People. Chinese President Xi Jinping is about to meet recipients of the nation's highest honor. It's not only those four outstanding individuals we just mentioned, but also many other individuals and organizations, institutions have been awarded with this national honor. They include medical workers and the people from all walks of life participated in the fight against COVID-19 in China. And when the COVID-19 outbreak started in China earlier this year, the whole country got united to fight against it. On the front lines were the medical staff. After the outbreak started in Wuhan, over 42,000 medical workers from all around the country went into the city to help the fight against the COVID-19 there. They also brought over 65,000 medical equipment. We're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People. Chinese President Xi Jinping and China's top leadership will meet the recipients of the nation's highest honor. Chinese President Xi Jinping is on top venue to meet the recipients of the nation's highest honor along with China's top leadership. Chinese President Xi Jinping will take a group photo with all those recipients. And in about 40 minutes, an awarding ceremony will be held at the Great Hall of the People, where Chinese President Xi Jinping will deliver a keynote speech regarding the occasion. On August 11th, Chinese President Xi Jinping signed a presidential order to recognize the special contributions of 4 Chinese individuals in the fight against the COVID-19. Dr. Zhong Nanshan will be presented with the Medal of the Republic, the highest honor of the nation. Zhang Boli, Zhang Dingyuan, and Chen Wei will be awarded the national honorary title People's Hero. And late August, China's Central Party Authority announced it would honor 1,500 individuals and 500 institutions and groups for their contributions. And one of them is our CGTN reporter, Mr. Go Yunfei. And the work of another 200 party members and 150 party organizations is also being recognized. You're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People. These are the faces of China's heroes in the fight against the COVID-19. Chinese President Xi Jinping and China's top leadership are taking a group photo with these heroes of the nation. Chinese President Xi Jinping is taking a group photo with the recipient of the country's highest honor. These are the faces of China's heroes in the fight against COVID-19 in the country. You're watching a special live coverage on CGTN. Stay with us.
You've traveled to places where others couldn't be, seen things others couldn't imagine, and heard stories you can't be sure whether to believe. They say that you're privileged, that people look up to you, but only you know how much effort you've made. You're on the ultimate journey to discover a country with 5,000 years of history and nearly 1.5 billion people. Is it a green countryside or a vast sea of neon lights and skyscrapers? Is it a dangerous land choked with smog or the blue sky of a summer's day? What is this China for you? And what is this China for the rest of the world? CGTN. See the difference.
You're watching a special live coverage on CGTN. The awarding ceremony will be held in the Great Hall of the People in the Chinese capital for those outstanding individuals and organizations in China's fight against the COVID-19. President Xi Jinping will deliver a keynote speech and present medals to those recipients, and we'll bring you live coverage on that. China is stepping up efforts in the global race to develop a coronavirus vaccine. The National Biotech Group and Sinovac say 4 more countries have agreed to run late-stage trials of their vaccine candidates. Serbia and Pakistan will take on phase 3 trials of the CNBG vaccines, while Sinovac's vaccine candidate will be trialed in Brazil and Indonesia. CNBG says phase 3 trials have kicked off in about 10 countries, including the UAE, Bahrain, Peru and Argentina. They're expected to involve 50,000 people. Phase 3 clinical trials usually require thousands of people to verify the safety and effectiveness of the vaccines. They're key to market approval. It's been a week since Hong Kong launched a massive testing campaign on COVID-19 to screen hundreds of thousands of residents for the virus. Our reporter Zhu Dan has more from one of the testing sites.
Here, as you can see behind me, is one of the 141 community testing centers. This sports stadium has been fully booked for the next few days. Another 43 testing centers have been fully booked, and the scheme may be extended for 3 more days to September 14th. The Secretary for the Civil Service, Patrick Nip, on Sunday said that the universal COVID-19 testing program has identified 10 patients so far, including 4 previously confirmed cases. He said around 1.08 million people have signed up for the community-wide testing scheme, with more than 860,000 people have had their test samples taken already.
I just think it's almost civic duty. And I think the more data that people get, the better chance we have of controlling it. It's good for me, good for the health services, so it just makes sense.
I've just been tested. It was very smooth and quick. My daughter will come later. It's for ourselves and others.
Because it's such a good facility by the government. I bring with me my mate from Philippines, to double check if they are, okay.
A Singaporean public health expert says effective government management is key in pandemic control.
China has actually shown the world that COVID-19 can be managed and controlled in a manner that minimizes transmission in the community to small number of cases that you can identify, you can perform contact tracing, and you can break transmission chain in the community.
An Olympic official says Tokyo's postponed Summer Games will be held regardless of the pandemic. Vice President of the International Olympic Committee, John Coates, said the Tokyo Games will start next year with or without COVID. The Games were originally scheduled for July this year, but were pushed back by 1 year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Public enthusiasm in Japan that appears to be waning. A recent poll found just 1 in 4 Japanese want the Games to go ahead. Most want either another postponement or a cancellation. Britain's trade talks with the EU have hit a snag. British ministers are planning new legislation that will override key parts of the Brexit withdrawal agreement. Negotiations between the UK and the EU are due to resume on Tuesday, but the Financial Times reported that the new bill threatens to derail implementation of the Brexit plan. Lucy Hoff reports from Brussels.
Time is ticking and tensions are rising. Just 5 weeks to find compromise or prepare for no deal. As the 8th and penultimate round of talks begin in London, the UK has insisted on its readiness for whatever comes next.
We're ready for any eventuality, of course, but we must make sure that people understand that at the end of the year, whatever happens, we are leaving the EU and leaving the transition period, leaving the implementation period. And if we have to have an Australia-style deal, an Australia-style solution, then that is what we will achieve, and we will prosper mightily one way or the other.
But as the talks hit a critical juncture, the UK is reported to be finding ways to override some parts of what has already been agreed. When the two sides signed the withdrawal agreement back in October, a protocol was agreed to prevent a hard Irish border. The protocol set in place that the UK's Northern Ireland would be kept under some EU rules on VAT, customs and state aid. The plans have not been welcomed by the EU. Brussels is warning that any attempt to undermine an international treaty will derail the talks, but is still insisting it wants to make progress.
We are fully concentrated on making the most out of this week's negotiating round and out of negotiating rounds that will follow. We share Prime Minister Johnson's desire to reach a deal quickly. We will do everything in our power to reach an agreement which should be in line with the EU's long-term economic and political interests. The future economic partnership with the UK and any free trade agreement must ensure open and fair competition.
Boris Johnson says the two sides must agree a deal by the EU Council summit on October the 15th, or accept there will be no deal at the end of the transition period. Fighting talk, or a sign that compromise may be out of reach.
Supporters of Julian Assange have protested outside a London courtroom, calling for the WikiLeaks founder not to be extradited to the United States. Nicole Johnston reports.
Behind tinted windows, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange arrived at London's Central Court. Assange is fighting a request from the United States Justice Department for his extradition to the US. The trial had been delayed since April due to coronavirus. Outside the court, a crowd showed their support for a man the US regards as a national threat and others view as a defender of press freedom. Assange's father says the COVID lockdown has been hard on Assange in prison.
The other day his family was able to visit. He's not allowed to touch his children. If he touches his children, he has to spend 2 weeks in isolation. So that's 2 weeks in isolation in the jail.
The US Department of Justice argues Assange tried to recruit hackers to find classified documents. His lawyers say the case is politically motivated and they haven't had enough time to examine the indictment.
Well, his preparation, of course, has been thrown off track because only 3 weeks ago the Americans introduced a totally new document, which is an insult to UK justice system and is an attempt to derail the entire proceedings. There are no new indictment yet, just a new narrative. But this shows just the abuse of process that the Americans are willing to go through in this entire thing.
The British government has said it won't extradite Julian Assange to the United States if he's to face the death penalty there. But still, if he's convicted in the US, he could receive a sentence of up to 175 years in jail. Assange has been indicted for 18 charges in the US. 17 of them are covered by the Espionage Act for receiving and disclosing classified documents related to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The trial is expected to last 3 to 4 weeks. And with appeals from both sides likely, the case could drag out for many more months or years to come. Nicole Johnston, CGTN, London.
Belarus says police have arrested more than 600 people at weekend protest, and the opposition claims a senior figure has been snatched off the streets as authorities intensify efforts to end weeks of demonstrations. Charlotte Parsons has more.
From politician to protester to prisoner. Unidentified masked men have reportedly detained the leading opposition figure in Belarus. According to local media, Maria Kolesnikova was snatched from the street and bundled into a van. 3 other members of her team vanished at around the same time. The news follows a government announcement that more than 600 people have been arrested following a 4th week of mass protests. 4 people have been killed in the unrest that has engulfed the country in the months since the presidential election. The demonstrators want President Alexander Lukashenko to resign, accusing him of rigging the vote that returned him to power. Lukashenko flatly denies that claim, saying Western powers are interfering in Belarus affairs, trying to topple him. Chief among those Western critics, the European Union. On Monday, the EU moved a step closer to levelling sanctions against top officials, including the Interior Minister. Brussels reportedly has 31 Belarus officials in its sights and plans to punish them with travel bans and asset freezes, holding them accountable for what it sees as a violent crackdown. The Belarus government rejects allegations of police brutality. Its Internal Affairs Minister described the country's security forces as among the most humane, restrained and cool-headed in the world. Police in Minsk have reportedly said they aren't detaining Maria Kolesnikova.
Belarusians, you're unbelievable. I'm proud that I can be here with you now and to support you, and you support us. I love you.
The musician turned politician became the most high-profile opposition figure in the country after 3 of her colleagues fled to Poland and Lithuania. Kolesnikova chose to stay behind, and now her whereabouts are a mystery. Charlotte Parsons, CGTN.
South Africans will have one more option on their ballot papers when they go to the polls in next year's local government elections. Former Johannesburg Democratic Alliance Mayor Herman Mashaba has recently launched Action SA, a new opposition party. Julie Shire has more.
According to Herman Mashaba, 2.4 million South Africans are placing their trust on him, and he's hoping his new opposition party, Action SA, can attract respondents and first-time voters.
60% of the people of the 2.4 million people who engaged us to say, please form a political party in writing, 60% of them are coming from the 18.5 million people who did not vote.
Last year, Mashaba stepped down as Johannesburg mayor and a member of the Democratic Alliance, the main opposition to the ruling ANC. He's back to shake up the political scene and is promising a non-racial party open to South Africans who are tired of injustice and corruption.
People of South Africa are looking for a party that can be unapologetic to push a strategy of non-racialism, free market economy where government can play as minimal role as possible in the economy, allow the private sector to play the role. People of South Africa are looking for social justice. We're a country where politicians are still in this country, left, right, and center. Our people are being murdered. Our women are being raped.
When people voted the party that's in power right now, people had the hopes that they would take them out of poverty and there'd be equality and all that. But it's the very same people that have incarcerated people to the chains of poverty as a result of corruption and incompetence.
Action SA wants to contest in 3 municipalities in 2021. But are South Africans ready for another opposition party?
In South Africa, it's not a problem of whether new party will be welcome or not. I can bet that each new party formed by people who have not offended anyone, who have a sense of national presence, who have picked 1 or 2 issues, that party will get away with 2 or 3% just for existing. The difficulty is them sustaining and building an institutional mechanism. It's got nothing to do with the voters. South African voters are very much willing.
Mashaba made his entry into politics in 2014 when he joined the Democratic Alliance and began a rapid rise to power that attracted criticism over his perceived lack of experience in politics and local government.
If he can succeed, it will be a great achievement, and I think a lot of people are going to follow him because people want to see genuine business people also coming into the policy fray. But he's taken a big gamble.
The ANC secured over 50% of the vote in the last municipal elections, with support waning. Action SA believes it can secure a sizable chunk of the electorate, but it will now also depend on elections going ahead next year, or if they will be pushed out to 2024. Julie Shara, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
West African regional bloc ECOWAS has made a new appeal to Mali for a swift transition to civilian rule. ECOWAS has also called for elections within 12 months and urged the military to help in restoring stability. Following the August 18th military coup, the 15-member bloc placed sanctions on Mali. This included border closures as well as bans on trade and financial flows. ECOWAS says it has a responsibility to help Mali re-establish institutions of governance. China has launched a new optical remote sensing satellite into orbit. Golfin 1102 was launched by a Long March 4B carrier rocket from the Taiwan Satellite Launch Center in the northern Shanxi province. It can take pictures with a resolution of less than a meter and will be used in land surveys, urban planning, road network design, crop yield estimation and disaster prevention. The satellite will also support projects in China's Belt and Road Initiative.
You're watching breaking news on CGTN.
You're watching a special live coverage on CGTN. Chinese President Xi Jinping and the recipients of the nation's highest honor have just taken a group photo at Great Hall of the People. They include Dr. Zhong Nanshan, recipient of the Medal of the Republic, and Zhang Boli, Zhang Dingyu, and Chen Wei, recipients of the honorary People's Hero title, as well as other outstanding individuals and groups. They were awarded for their outstanding contributions in China's fight against COVID-19. You know that an awarding ceremony will starts in about 20 minutes at Great Hall of the People. For more on the situation there, let's cross live to our reporter Su Yuting. Hello Yuting, tell us more. What can we expect from the upcoming ceremony?
Yes, Pandan, I'm now standing at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, and the awards ceremony will be held at 10 a.m. to honor the outstanding individuals and organizations in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. And over there, at the stage behind me, President Xi Jinping and senior officials will sing the national anthem and pay the silent tribute to the fallen heroes who have dedicated their lives in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. And you know that the people are now just flocking into the grand hall of the Great Hall of the People. And you know that there are around 3,000 people, including the relatives of the martyrs and also international friends who made great contributions. And also the diplomats from foreign embassies to China will also attend the event. And in August, the President Xi Jinping has signed the presidential order to award the 4 people for their outstanding contributions in the fight of the COVID-19 pandemic. And today, the presidential order will be read out, and President Xi Jinping will just present the national medal and honorary titles to the 4 people. They are very renowned experts. Zhong Nanshan, China's top respiratory expert who have identified the SARS virus in 2003 and now is currently leading the Chinese government's efforts in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, will be awarded the National Medal of the Republic. That's the highest state honor. And Zhong Nanshan is 84 years old, but he went to the Wuhan front line at the very beginning of the outbreak of the pandemic. And he has pointed out the phenomenon of person-to-person transmission and also placed a very great emphasis on the strict prevention and control measures. And along together with Zhong Nanshan, there will be the remaining 3. They are the China's top medical expert, Zhang Boli, and also the head of Wuhan's designated coronavirus treating Jintan Hospital, Zhang Dingyu, and also Chinese top vaccine researcher Chen Wei. And these people will be awarded the honorary titles of the people's heroes. Yes, indeed, they are the heroes. Zhang Boli has recommended the treating of the Chinese traditional medicine in treating the coronavirus. And the Zhang Dingyu has gained time by confirming the unknown pneumonia as the novel coronavirus. And Chen Wei has also dedicated a lot to the basic research of the vaccine for the COVID-19. And the vaccine developed by Chen Wei's team has contributed a lot and is the very first in the world to disclose the phase 1 clinical trial results. And during the meeting, President Xi Jinping will also make a very important speech. And together there will be 3 other representatives of the role models, including Zhong Nanshan and also the doctor Liu Zhenying, and also the grassroots official Gui Xiaomei will just make their very important speeches as well. You know that the COVID-19 pandemic is the public health emergency, and the virus has spread faster and wider than any other since the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, and it has proven to be the most difficult to contain. It's both a crisis and test for China. So presenting to these people with the nation's top honor is just aimed to fully demonstrate the Chinese people's spirit of uniting as one and their extraordinary courage. China has protected the lives of its people and also its safety and health. So China will continue to work with the international community to safeguard global public health. Back to you, Pandeng.
Thank you very much. Our reporter Su Yuting at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, and CGTN will bring you live coverage on the ceremony in about 15 minutes. As COVID-19 hit China, the country tried its best to save as many patients as possible while keeping the healthy population safe. Early detection, early reporting, early isolation and early treatment were 4 principles set by Chinese President Xi Jinping during the fight against COVID-19, and it turned out to be effective.
By the 3rd week of Wuhan's lockdown, over 10,000 COVID-19 cases were confirmed, and tens of thousands more were suspected in the city. And all efforts were called on to save as many COVID patients as possible, as President Xi Jinping prioritized hospitalizing those with COVID. She also said that the government put forward the prevention and control requirements of early detection, early reporting, early isolation, and early treatment.
We need to take all severely ill patients into hospitals. We cannot relax on works of taking patients into hospitals.
With the central steering group sent by President Xi to Wuhan, 2 emergency hospitals offering 2,600 beds were set up and started running. However, with daily confirmed cases quickly reaching the thousands, it meant 2 such hospitals needed to be built every day. With not enough hospital beds and the incubation period for COVID up to 2 weeks, many COVID patients were still on the streets. The Central Steering Group organized rounds of screening in communities to find all COVID carriers, taking people's temperature and checking them to make sure they didn't have any COVID symptoms. In order to take in all these COVID infections, it was decided to convert public buildings such as stadiums and convention centers into temporary hospitals for non-severe patients.
The most important function of those temporary hospitals is to isolate COVID patients from healthy people, which is a very important step in the prevention and control of infectious diseases.
In addition, dozens of quarantine centers were opened across the city, including converted hotels, to take in those people who came in close contact with the virus. This teenage girl who had 4 confirmed coronavirus patients in her family was transferred to a hotel, modified into one of those isolation facilities.
那就是你现在有发烧吗？或者有其他的症状？
我没事。
是愿意来被隔离吗？你觉得现在是有必要吗？
我觉得还是有必要的，因为如果还在家里的话，可能自己会被感染，感染人太多的话，也不好。
想让我们像这样子的一个密接隔离点，它的意义在这是什么？
密接隔离点是吧？
The isolation is a means of preventing infection between people. It's possible for people to get infected after having been in close contact with confirmed cases of the coronavirus. We need to isolate them and put them under medical surveillance.
At the early stage of the outbreak, the death rate in Wuhan hovered around 5%, double the national average. China's leader reiterated several times to reduce the infection rate and the death rate with effective treatment programs. The death rate started a job, and some doctors even found out ways to help those critically ill patients.
Our survival rate is 100%. While ECMO can help patients survive longer, its largest significance lies in early intervention in order to stop patients' conditions from worsening.
The fatality rate was very high in the early stage. Reasons for that include the delay of incubation, hormone treatment, and even the use of some drugs, such as the broad spectrum of antibiotics. These might have led to a significant increase in the risk of death of patients in the later stage. But looking back, we can see that later on, with positive measures taken and the recognition of those limits in early treatments, we have this data that shows a significant decrease in the fatality rate.
Data showed that by the end of March, the COVID-19 death rate in China stabled at around 4%, while some countries were hitting 10%. And the cure rate in China, over 90%, was almost double the second highest cure rate achieved by South Korea.
经过艰苦卓绝努力，付出巨大代价，中国有力扭转了疫情局势，维护了人民生命安全和身体健康。
With China's focus on early detection, early reporting, early isolation, and early treatment, the spread of COVID-19 was tamed. The top marks on cure rates prove that China is on the right track. And from newborn babies to centenarians, the Chinese government promised to save everyone hit by the virus.
So, Dr. Cao, we just saw this report on China's arduous journey to flatten the curve. So we've talked about doctors' dedication and contribution like yours and people's support. But what about the role of technology in this whole process? Tell us more about your experience from your work in Wuhan.
Well, apart from the human efforts, technology is playing an important part in the combating of the COVID-19. For example, the early detection and early isolation needs a very important requirements is the testing capacity. As soon as the viral genome was identified, China has put all full capacity to produce the testing kits of the virus, and that promises that all of the people who needs to be tested in China can be tested properly. And even now, in some parts of the world, some countries cannot even achieve this, and that is the most important reason that we can control the epidemic is that we tested everyone who need testing. Also, apart from these, we also have like progressions of technology of medicines, and also the online virtual meetings are playing an important part because these patients are actually infectious patients, and more and more caring and discussion of these patients are carried out through a remote mode. For example, when the national medical team are treating the patients in front line, our experts back like in Peking Union Medical Hospital will sit down together to discuss the situations of these patients and to work out a plan for these patients to recover.
Right, now let's take a look at this by a global perspective. China was the first country to be hit by the coronavirus. Soon after the outbreak, it shared the entire COVID-19 genome sequence with the World Health Organization and other countries. When it managed to bring the situation under control, China turned to the global fight. It sent 29 medical expert teams to 27 countries and offered assistance to 150 countries as of the end of May. Local governments, enterprises and individuals have donated materials to more than 150 countries and regions, as well as international organizations. The National Health Commission worked out plans on diagnosis, treatment, prevention and control. They're translated into many other languages and shared with more than 180 countries and regions. China and Serbia have been in close collaboration since the beginning of the pandemic. Encouraging signs of control of the outbreak in Serbia have left people there with gratitude for the advice of the Chinese medical experts and medical supplies from China. Alyosha Milankovic reports.
These are the two most prominent faces of Serbia's fight against the coronavirus pandemic. The situation is now far better than how it was 6 months ago, when the outbreak started. And they say things would be much worse if there wasn't a collaboration with China.
The number of cases and fatalities would have been incomparably higher, several times higher if there had been no collaboration with our colleagues from China. Without that collaboration and timely help, we'd be in a tough situation now.
And this is how it all began, with a cargo plane bringing the first batch of medical help and experts from China in March. Besides the protective equipment and ventilators, the medical team also brought much-needed expertise in fighting the unknown enemy.
Chinese medical experts arrived here today from the Guangdong province. They've come from the COVID-19 frontlines in China to Serbia to Europe to a new virus battlefield.
Just months later, they were awarded by the Serbian government for their immense help and contribution. The Serbian Prime Minister also hailed China's support both before and after the outbreak.
The support of China saved jobs in Serbia. Jobs. Today, the support of China saves lives in Serbia.
Now the COVID-19 situation in Serbia seems to be under control. The numbers are low, schools are open, and life is as normal as it can be. All of that thanks to a textbook example of collaboration between the two nations. Alyosha Milankovic, CGTN, Belgrade.
Dr. Gao, what do you make of the responsibility China has taken so far in the global fight against COVID-19?
Well, international cooperation is absolutely necessary because mankind is facing with this common enemy, the COVID-19 virus. Without international cooperation, while each country can do its job, I think it will not be effective in dealing with this and fighting off this virus. China has been stepping up a great deal from the very beginning, not only in terms of cooperation with WHO, in terms of discovering and disclosing the true nature of this virus, but also in terms of sharing with many countries in terms of expertise, their experience, but also PPE, because China, after all, is the biggest manufacturing country in the world, including in the PPE sector. And I think China is not only producing huge amount for its own use to protect its medical staff as well as nationals at home, but also is stepping up and willing and ready and able to cooperate with so many other countries. And no country can really do this all by itself. International cooperation, especially under the coordination of WHO, will be absolutely the right thing to do and the very important thing to do.
And what's your take on this, Dr. Cao?
Well, I agree with Dr. Gao that international collaboration was playing an important part and will be playing a more and more.
As a medical professional, what do you make of the role of the World Health Organization in this global fight?
I think WHO is doing their job in this epidemic. Early in this epidemic in China, they have set people here to see the situations in China and also to help to identify the virus situations here. And from then on, they have been working around the world to promote the collaborations all over the world, and they are taking their role in produce the different versions of guidelines of treatment and diagnosis and also prevention of the coronavirus.
But it will also be differentiated due to the different socio-economic conditions in various countries, right?
Yeah.
So what about now as we're talking about this, you're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People, an awarding ceremony for outstanding individuals and organizations during China's fight against the COVID-19 will start very soon. And Chinese President Xi Jinping will present the honors to those awardees. President Xi Jinping will also deliver a keynote speech. You're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People in central Beijing. So Dr. Zhong Nanshan will be presented with the nation's highest honor, Medal of the Republic. And Mr. Zhang Dingyu, Zhang Boli, and Chen Wei will be awarded with the honorary title of People's Heroes. Also, thousands of individuals and organizations will also be awarded for their outstanding contribution during China's fight against COVID-19. You're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People in central Beijing. Now, when the COVID-19 outbreak started in China earlier this year, the whole country got united to fight against it. On the front lines were the medical staff. And after the outbreak started in Wuhan, more than 42,000 medical workers from all around the country went to the city of Wuhan to offer their support. They also brought over 65,000 medical equipment. And in Wuhan, China has built 2 specialized hospitals to fight the outbreak and treat patients in the western suburbs of the city. And 4 state-owned construction firms broke ground on the eve of the Chinese New Year to build those 2 hospitals in a record time, almost in a short time window of about 10 days. And Wuhan also activated 16 temporary hospitals for patients with mild symptoms, providing over 14,000 beds. Also, traditional Chinese medicine has played an important role in treating those patients with mild and slight symptoms of COVID-19. Industries and manufacturers all around the country has made their contributions as well, with producing medical supplies and PPEs, personal protective equipment. Over 200 million masks and 5 million N95 masks were being produced every day. By April, more than 8.8 million volunteers registered to help in a battle against coronavirus. So indeed, this is a united efforts by the whole country. Now, by the end of May, over 160 billion yuan had been allocated by governments at all levels, equal to nearly 23 billion US dollars. As a result, China achieved a recovery rate of 94.3%. It was quite an arduous journey taken by China to fight this virus and the pandemic. Now you're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People in central Beijing, an awarding ceremony for outstanding individuals and organizations during the country's fight against COVID-19 is about to start. Chinese President Xi Jinping will present the honors to recipients. He will also deliver a keynote speech. Dr. Zhong Nanshan, China's top respiratory expert, has been awarded the Medal of the Republic due to his outstanding contributions in the fight against the COVID-19. Zhong Nanshan is currently an academician at the Chinese Academy of Engineering and the director of the National Respiratory Disease Clinical Medicine Research Center in Guangzhou. He was involved right from the early stages of the pandemic, determining quickly how the disease spread and stressing the importance of strict prevention and control measures. Zhong Nanshan also led efforts to compile diagnosis and treatment plans, which involved critical scientific research. Once the situation had stabilized in China, Zhong Nanshan then switched his attention to the global effort, sharing his expertise and experience with global colleagues through various forms. He was selected as a member of a panel appointed by the World Health Organization to review the COVID-19 response this month. Zhong Nanshan first gained fame during the 2003 SARS outbreak, helping to bring the outbreak in South China's Guangdong province under control. Now, the Medal of the Republic is the country's highest honor for prominent figures who have made great contributions to the construction and development of China. And it will be presented by Chinese President Xi Jinping to Dr. Zhong Nanshan in a short while during this awarding ceremony. You're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People. Chinese President Xi Jinping is attending this ceremony. He will present the nation's highest honors to individuals and organizations who made outstanding contributions in China's fight against COVID-19. So besides Dr. Zhong Nanshan receiving the Medal of the Republic, Mr. Zhang Boli, Mr. Zhang Dingyu and Ms. Chen Wei will be receiving the honorary titles of People's Hero during this ceremony. You're watching live footage from the Great Hall of the People. This is the ceremony awarding individuals and organizations.
Comrades, friends, guests, the National COVID-19 Response Honors and Awards Conference now begins. Please all rise for the national anthem of the People's Republic of China. Comrades, friends, guests, in the hard struggle against COVID-19, a number of medical professionals, employees, officials, and community workers have given their lives in the line of duty, and many infected individuals have perished. We deeply mourn the loss of the heroes and our compatriots who have perished. Please observe a moment's silence. Please be seated. Today, the CPC Central Committee, the State Council, and the Central Military Commission are holding the solemn National COVID-19 Response Honors and Awards Conference. The leaders in attendance include General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee, President of China, and Chairman of the Central Military Commission, Comrade Xi Jinping. Members of the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee, Comrades Li Zhanshu, Wang Yang, Wang Huning, Zhao Leji, and Han Zheng, and Comrade Wang Qishan, the Vice President of China. Also in attendance are other leading officials of the party and the state, members of the Central Military Commission, leading officials from different localities and departments, representatives of the democratic parties, the National Industrial and Commercial Federation, and persons without party affiliation, recipients of the national medals and honorary titles, and representatives of their family members and co-workers, exemplary individuals and entities in fighting COVID-19, outstanding CPC members and primary level CPC organizations, representatives of the family members of the heroes, representatives of our compatriots in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, and the overseas community, and returned Chinese and their relatives, and representatives of the diplomatic envoys of other countries to China and international organizations, as well as international friends who've contributed to China's COVID-19 response. Now I would like to ask member of the Political Bureau Standing Committee and chairman of the NPC Standing Committee, Comrade Li Zhanshu, to read to you the order of the President of the People's Republic of China. Order of the President of the People's Republic of China, number 53. To honor the individuals who have made an outstanding contribution to China's fight against COVID-19 to promote the noble virtues of loyalty, devotion, and sacrifice that they represent, and based on the decision adopted by the 21st session of the Standing Committee of the 13th National People's Congress, the following individuals are to be awarded the National Medal or National Honorary Titles. First, Zhong Nanshan is to be awarded the Medal of the People's Republic. Second, Zhang Boli, Zhang Dingyu, and Miss Chen Wei are to be awarded the National Honorary Title of the People's Hero. Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China, the 11th of August, 2020.
现在
Now, I ask the honor guards to escort the National Medal and the Medal of the National Honorary Titles onto the stage. Now, General Secretary, President, and Chairman, Comrade Xi Jinping, will present the National Medal and the Medal of the National Honorary Titles. I'd like to invite the 4 honorees to be seated on the podium. Please all rise.
"下面，为共和国勋章获得者授勋。钟南山，我国呼吸疾病研究领域的领军人物。
Zhong Nanshan is a leading research scientist on respiratory diseases. He's known for his bravery and honesty and sense of responsibility. He has saved countless lives and made an enormous contribution to beating SARS and COVID-19.
"下面，为国家荣誉称号获得者颁授奖章。张伯礼。
Zhang Boli is a people's hero who oversaw the involvement of traditional Chinese medicine in the treatment protocol. The combination of Chinese and Western treatment protocol that he pioneered is a unique aspect of the Chinese solution and has made a major contribution to the innovation and development of traditional Chinese medicine.
张定宇
Zhang Dingyu is a people's hero who fought on the front line of the battle against COVID-19. He suffers from ALS, yet he put that aside and saved lives. He made a major contribution to winning the battle in Hubei and Wuhan. Miss Chen Wei is a people's hero who's long worked on the prevention and control of biological hazards. She responded to the call of duty and achieved major outcomes in underlying research, vaccine, and drug development. She has made a major contribution to the mitigation and control of the epidemic.
Please be seated. I now invite Member of the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee and Secretary of the Secretariat of the CPC Central Committee, Comrade Wang Huning, to read the decision of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council and the Central Military Commission to award exemplary individuals and entities in national COVID-19 response, and the decision of the CPC Central Committee to award outstanding CPC members and primary level party organizations. The decision of the CPC Central Committee, the State Council, and the Central Military Commission to award exemplary individuals and entities in national COVID-19 response. The COVID-19 is a major public health emergency that is fastest spreading, widest affecting, and most difficult to contain since the founding of the People's Republic. Faced with COVID-19, the Central Party Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping as its core, put people first, put people's lives first, and put people's health and safety front and center. General Secretary Xi Jinping personally commanded and guided the response efforts, chaired a number of meetings to decide on response strategies and efforts, made important instructions and directives which have provided us with fundamental guidelines for national response efforts. Party organizations, military and government entities, businesses, and entire society united as one to follow the unified leadership, coordination, and command of the CPC Central Leadership, we have firmly implemented the guideline of confidence, solidarity, science-based approach, and targeted response. We have raised with the time, wrestled with the virus, and launched an all-out people's battle against COVID-19. We have effectively stemmed the spread of the virus and made important gains in COVID-19 containment and economic and social development. During this demanding battle, the Communist Party members and officials kept firmly in mind the trust of the party and people, played exemplary roles and rushed to the forefront. The medical professionals displayed noble characters of saving lives with great compassion, worked tirelessly around the clock. PLA officers acted quickly to take heavy responsibilities. Police officers, disease control professionals, community workers fulfilled their duty with tireless efforts. Researchers, media professionals, party officials stationed in communities, volunteers, and ordinary employees all made their own contributions to the national response efforts. The people of the nation have made great efforts in the response efforts, and they have demonstrated heroic deeds, and these have demonstrated the great strengths of the CPC leadership and the socialist system with Chinese characteristics. They have shown the national character of resilience and perseverance, and these have represented a heroic song of the Chinese people coming together to tide over the difficulties. To promote these noble national characters, to encourage the entire party, the military, the nation, and to strengthen the national solidarity to overcome the difficulties, the Central Party Committee, the State Council, and the Central Military Commission have decided to award Tong Zhaohui and other 1,498 comrades the title of exemplary individuals, and to award Jinyintan Hospital in Wuhan Municipality and other 499 entities exemplary entities in national COVID-19 response. We hope the recipient individuals and entities will redouble the efforts, cherish the honor, and make new and greater contributions to the undertakings of the party and the people. Now COVID-19 is still spreading around the world. We still face the daunting task at home in ongoing response to the virus and promoting social and economic development. The Central Party Committee calls upon the whole party, the military, and all ethnic groups of the country to follow the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, the decisions of the 19th CPC National Congress, and the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th plenums of the 19th CPC Central Committee to follow the examples of the exemplary individuals and entities, rally more closely around the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, keep in mind the founding mission of the party, and work tirelessly for the building of a moderately prosperous society, for a modern socialist country, and the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation.
Decision by the CPC Central Committee on awarding the outstanding CPC members and the primary level party organizations. 8th of September 2020. The COVID-19 outbreak is a major public health emergency which is fastest to spread, most widely contagious, and the hardest to contain in the history of the People's Republic of China. After the outbreak of the epidemic, the CPC Central Committee attached great importance to it, and General Secretary Xi Jinping took personal command. We placed the safety and health of the people first and led the whole party and people of all ethnic groups in China in fighting an all-out people's war against the virus. After tremendous efforts, we have made major strategic gains in COVID-19 response and major important progress in coordinating COVID-19 response and economic and social development. All the party organizations at various levels and the party members and officials carried out the decisions and planning of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, put people's interests above everything else, and strengthened confidence, solidarity, science-based approach, and targeted response as required. They have stayed true to their missions in the fight against COVID-19 and submitted a satisfactory answer sheet in the major test. The primary level party organizations raced to mobilize and organize a response, held to their duty, and played a key role in fighting the virus. The CPC members have rose to the occasion and fought tirelessly against the virus and played an exemplary role in this battle against the disease. They have played a key role in the whole of society collective line of defense, garnered solidarity against the trying time, and the party flags have flown high on the front line in the battle against COVID-19. To award the outstanding CPC members and party organizations, encourage the whole parties to stay true to their mission and forge ahead tirelessly, the CPC Central Committee decides to award Jiang Rongmeng and other 185 CPC members the title of Outstanding CPC Member and posthumously award Shan Yuhou and other 13 CPC members this same title. Award the Party Committee of Beijing Ditan Hospital and another 149 primary level party organizations the title of Outstanding CPC Primary Level Organization. The awarded party members and organizations are excellent representatives of the individuals and entities making outstanding contributions to the fight against COVID-19 in China. Their noble deeds and minds speak to the fundamental mission of the CPC to serve the people wholeheartedly, to our values that places the people and lives above all else, to the political quality of the CPC members daring to fight and win, and to the strong capacity of organization, action, and fighting that characterize the party's organization system. The CPC Central Committee calls on all party organizations and the members and officials to follow the example of the awarded members and party organizations, implement the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, carry out the theories and guidelines of the party, stay true to their convictions and be loyal to the party. To place the people above all else, tirelessly do good things, real things, and resolve the problems for the people and maintain their close connection with the people. To take the lead in practicing the core socialist values, carry forward the patriotism, collectivism, and socialist spirit, and disseminate an enterprising spirit that always encourages people to forge ahead. To be courageous in times of difficulty and stand the test of major challenges, and garner great force that drives forward the party's endeavors in the new era. Now we are in the daunting task of coordinating the COVID-19 response and economic and social development and complete the building of a moderate prosperous society in all respects and eliminating absolute poverty. We are facing severe and challenging tasks in the way forward. The party organizations, members and officials at all levels must rally closer together around the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core. Stay focused on the strategic goal of the great renewal of the Chinese nation, strengthen the four awareness, four confidence, and two upholds. Work in an enterprising and solid way, take on responsibilities and make greater contributions to the goals of the moderately prosperous society in all respects, the modern socialist country in all respects, and realizing the Chinese dream of the great renewal of the Chinese nation.
Now I ask representatives of the exemplary individuals and entities and representatives of the outstanding CPC members and primary level party organizations to come to the stage to receive their awards. Now, I invite Comrade Zhong Nanshan, recipient of the Medal of the People's Republic, to speak. Respected General Secretary Xi Jinping, leaders, comrades, good morning. My name is Zhong Nanshan. I am a pulmonologist. I want to thank the party and the state sincerely for honoring the four of us. We see this as the full recognition from the party and the state to all the medical professionals in China. Since the start of the year, we have confronted the COVID-19 epidemic. All the medical professionals in China worked to resolutely implement the important instruction from General Secretary Xi Jinping to always put the people's lives and health first and foremost. We respected the facts and followed the science. We gave everything we've got to the battle to fight COVID-19. We overcame one obstacle after another in separating the viral strain, in community, prevention and control, in supporting Hubei, in drawing on both Chinese and Western medicine, and in treating severe cases. Under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee, the entire nation worked as one. In just over 1 month's time, we basically stopped the spread of the virus. In around 3 months' time, we won a decisive victory in safeguarding Wuhan and Hubei. This major strategic outcome in stopping the outbreak earned us the respect and admiration of the whole nation and the international community. We have beaten the current outbreak. But having said that, we must not lower our guard, and we must finish the battle as we have begun. We must partner with Chinese and foreign medical professionals and continue to make progress in tracing the origin of the virus, stopping the transmission, rapid diagnostics, research and development on drugs and vaccines, and treating severe cases. And we must make an even bigger contribution to the global fight against COVID-19 and to building a global community of health for all. We must not forget why we chose this profession and what doctors are for. The people have entrusted us with their life and health. This is why we went into the medical profession. And we must protect their health and lives, and that is the mission of doctors and nurses. I have the great fortune of seeing the strengthening of China's medical sector, and I have seen the People's Republic's march from poverty and backwardness to strength and prosperity. I take immense pride in that. I'm grateful to the party and the people for giving me precious opportunities and these important tasks. We're in a great era. We must prove worthy of this great era. In the face of the honors and awards, we must always remember the expectation of the party and the people, always rally closely around the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping as the core. We must continue to revere, protect, and uphold life, and give everything we have got to the health of the whole nation and to realizing the Chinese dream of great national rejuvenation. In closing, I wish every success in the parties and states' cause, great strength and prosperity for our motherland, and health and well-being for our great people. Thank you.
I now invite Dr. Liu Zhengying, exemplary individual of national COVID-19 response, an outstanding CPC member and director of the Department of Infectious Diseases of Beijing Union Medical College Hospital, to speak. Distinguished General Secretary Xi Jinping, leaders, comrades, good morning. My name is Liu Zhengying. I am a doctor of the Infectious Diseases Department of Beijing Union Medical College Hospital. It is my great honor to speak here. I want to thank the party and the country for the recognition and encouragement to us. I want to thank the Chinese people for your support and trust in us. This great honor belongs to the 1.4 billion Chinese people. COVID-19 has hit us and caught us by surprise. The CPC Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping as its core, has made decisive decisions and commanded and directed this great struggle and heroic fight against COVID-19. The medical professionals made many selfless sacrifices to fulfill their task, put themselves in harm's way, and threw themselves to the forefront of the battle against COVID-19. On the very second day of the Lunar Chinese New Year holiday, I joined the first medical team of my hospital to assist the battle in Wuhan and launched this fight against COVID-19. Faced with this unknown virus, we must not fear, we must not hold back. We must make our best efforts. When I saw there was a shortage of beds and hospitals, I was very worried. Immediately, I joined the remodeling of part of the Wuhan Tongji Hospital. With strenuous efforts, in just 48 hours, we completed the remodeling of the ICU departments, and within 12 hours after the use of the ICUs, we admitted 18 patients in critical conditions. As a veteran who experienced the fight against the SARS, I made my best efforts to collect the samples of nasal pharyngeal samples, which could serve as an important basis to judge the conditions of the patients. As an experienced doctor, I used my concrete efforts to encourage my younger team members, help them overcome anxiety and fear. Our team was a joint team. Our team members worked closely together to seize every opportunity to save lives. Very often, we would have to wear gowns to work for 10 hours consecutively. There was no time for food, for water, for time to take a break. We showed strong ability to fight a tough battle. We made our best efforts to use our best knowledge, the devoted care and heartwarming language to encourage the patients not to give up and to beat the virus. And when we saw our patients recover one after another, be released from the hospital, and we felt that every efforts were worthwhile. One of my patients, a woman with first name of Chen, received multiple therapies, including respiratory incubation, ventilator therapies, and sedative therapies. We kept talking to her. You must be brave. You must be strong. We are from Beijing Union Medical Hospital. We are one of the best medical teams in the country. Please trust us. You can make it. With joint efforts of the doctors, the patient was finally out of critical conditions. When she was released from the ICU, it happened to be her birthday, and she said pretty emotionally that when she was in coma, she heard our encouragement and she thanked us for giving her second life. When she recovered and was released from the hospital, she donated her blood as a therapy for other patients. In this battle against COVID-19, everyone, medical professionals, patients, were warriors and fighters. As doctors, we believe that placing people's lives and protecting people's lives are our first-order priority. I feel heartened that I can help saving lives and make some contribution to my motherland. In my future work, I will join tens of millions of my medical colleagues, keep to our missions, and make our best efforts to save lives with great compassion. Forever, we will be warriors to protect people's lives. Thank you.
Now I ask Gui Xiaomei, representative of exemplary entities and outstanding primary-level party organizations, secretary of the CPC branch of the Qingheju residential community, Hubei, to speak. Respected General Secretary Xi Jinping, distinguished leaders, comrades, good morning. My name is Gui Xiaomei. I'm the Secretary of the CPC branch of the Qingheju residential community of Wuhan City. I want to report to General Secretary, to the CPC Central Committee and people of China. Under the direct leadership of General Secretary Xi Jinping, we have stood the test of COVID-19. The heroic city has emerged stronger. The heroic people has emerged stronger. On the 26th of April 2018, General Secretary visited our community. He said to us that the community is a primary level structure. Only with a solid foundation can we have a robust national structure. In the fight against the COVID-19, we have kept these words in heart, held our ground to protect our home, and flew the party flag high on the forefront of the community response to COVID-19. General Secretary stressed that we must let all communities to play a key role in the defense against the COVID-19. We have formed a structure of party branches at the community level to grid level to unit level and organized 15 working teams, which we call party centers to serve you. We made door-to-door visits to take temperatures, took containment duties, and escorted patients and suspected cases to hospitals, to cabin hospitals, and to observation stations. In one screening activity, we have found that Ms. Huan, who lived alone, have caught a fever and was breathing in difficulty. We feared not to be affected and took her and brought her to the hospital during the night. He gratefully thanked us that it was the party who gave me the second life. General Secretary has always had Hubei and Wuhan on his heart. On the 10th of March, he came to Wuhan to direct our fight against COVID-19. He said that to win this fight, we must depend on the people. The members of our party branch has led the people to help each other and overcome the difficulties. Liu Chunhong, who has retired and has an age of close to 60 years old, still insists on carrying vegetables for the people to their doorsteps. Grandpa Wan, who is 79 years old, was paralyzed, and Tong Qian, a very young girl, always visited him and bought drugs and medicines for Grandpa. Fighting like a party member was the rallying call for our community, and people are racing to help each other, take watching shifts, supply life materials, and build a strong shield against this virus. When General Secretary visited us, he instructed us to get things done for the people, no matter they are big or small. And we coordinated supermarkets, shops, and pharmacies to arrange for the procurement of supplies for our residents. We have procured and sent medicines to 156 patients suffering chronic diseases and delivered meat and vegetables to 542 households living on basic allowance or senior citizens living alone. During the COVID-19 situation, there's no one household that have starved or run short of medicine. When the lockdown of Wuhan was lifted, people sang the song of My Motherland and I on their balconies. Our tears were welling, and we felt it was thanks to the wise direction and command of General Secretary Xi Jinping, the strong leadership of the party, and the solidarity of the whole nation that Hubei could win, that Wuhan could win. Beside the heroic people, we have the people's leader, and behind the heroic city, we have the great nation. The COVID-19 epidemic is a major test, and General Secretary has instructed us to shore up the short weak links in governance system and capacity. The Provincial Party Committee has rolled out a series of policies to beef up primary level governance. Now there are 112 party officials who are working for our community, assisting our work in turn. Now we are better equipped, better paid, and we are even more motivated. General Secretary, CPC Central Committee, please rest assured that we will stay true to our mission, carry forward with a grateful heart, serve the people wholeheartedly, and make our greatest contribution to securing a dual victory in COVID-19 response and economic and social development. Thank you.
Now I invite General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee, President of China, and Chairman of the Central Military Commission, Comrade Xi Jinping, to deliver an important address. Comrades and friends, in the past 8 months and more, our party has united and led Chinese people of all ethnic groups in a heroic struggle against COVID-19. We have passed an extraordinary and historical test, and we have made enormous efforts. We have achieved a major strategic outcome in beating the COVID-19, and we have created a remarkable feat in the history of mankind's struggle against diseases. Today, we're holding the solemn National COVID-19 Response, Honors and Awards Conference to present medals to the outstanding individuals, the Medal of the People's Republic and the medals of the national honorary titles, to recognize the exemplary individuals and entities, to promote the great spirit shown throughout our struggle against COVID-19, and to continue to work tirelessly to fully establish a moderately prosperous society and winning the great victory of building socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era. Here on behalf of the CPC Central Committee, the State Council, and the Central Military Commission, I would like to pay great tribute to the exemplary individuals and entities honored today, to all those who have made major contributions to China's COVID-19 response, including members of the medical profession, CDC workers, officers and men of the People's Liberation Army, officers and men of the People's Armed Police, scientists, community workers, public security officers, first responders, newsmen, employees of enterprises and public institutions, construction workers, officials sent to help with community response, volunteers, and the many people who have pitched in. I would like to offer a deep sense of respect to all the party and the government organizations and party members and officials in enterprises and public institutions at all levels. I would like to express our sincere gratitude to members of the democratic parties, persons without party affiliation, and members of industrial and commercial confederations, people's organizations, and people across all sectors of society who've joined the national response effort. And to our compatriots in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, and the overseas Chinese community who've sent us their support and assistance. Throughout the Chinese people's struggle against COVID-19, many foreign leaders, government officials, political parties, social organizations, and the foreign embassies in China, the relevant United Nations agencies, relevant regional organizations, and international institutions, foreign invested enterprises, and international friends of China have conveyed to the Chinese people their best wishes and provided valuable support in various ways. On behalf of the Chinese government and people, I would like to say a big thank you to them all. Even as we meet, the virus is still spreading around the world. The Chinese people feel keenly the pain being suffered by people in other nations. We deeply mourn the loss of precious lives taken by the virus. We pay great respects to those people who are racing against time to beat the virus and save lives. And we give our best wishes to those who have been infected with coronavirus but are receiving medical treatment. At this particular moment, I want to make a point of mourning the loss of the heroes who've given their lives in fighting the virus, and to our fellow countrymen and women who have succumbed to the virus. Our thoughts are forever with them. Comrades and friends, COVID-19 is the most serious pandemic the world has seen in 100 years. It is the fastest spreading, most infectious, and the hardest to control public health emergency that we have encountered since 1949. The ferocious coronavirus took all of us by surprise and put people's lives and health in serious jeopardy. We put the people first and saving lives foremost. We acted with resolution, courage, and determination. We raced against time to wage an all-out people's war to stem the spread of the coronavirus. In a little over 1 month's time, we basically stopped the spread of the virus in China. In around 2 months' time, we reduced new daily cases to single digits. In around 3 months' time, we won a decisive outcome in safeguarding Wuhan and Hubei. Then, we stamped out local outbreaks in various parts of the country, thus clinching a major strategic outcome in the nationwide battle against COVID-19. On that basis, we balanced COVID-19 response with economic and social development. We made up for lost time in resuming the order of production and life, and this has produced a notable result. China's character, strengths, and sense of responsibility have been shown throughout this struggle. In the face of the unexpected COVID-19 situation, the CPC Central Committee focused on the big picture, took decisive decisions, and adopted extraordinary steps to respond to an extraordinary emergency. The Party Central Committee put the health and lives of our people first and demonstrated collective, unified leadership. In the first instance, the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee and its Standing Committee have convened 21 meetings to study the situation and mobilized all sectors of Chinese society and all localities across the country in a nationwide battle. We worked with confidence and unity and in a science-based and targeted way. We set out the goal of resolutely stopping the outbreak and resolutely winning the battle against COVID-19. We made well-thought-out arrangements for safeguarding Wuhan and Hubei. We implemented major strategies in light of the evolving situation. We set up a central leadership group, sent a central command group to Hubei, and established an interagency task force under the State Council. We emphasized early detection, early reporting, early quarantine, and early treatment. We pooled resources, experts, and facilities to treat severe cases. We made great efforts to increase the admission rate and the cure rate and reduce the infection rate and the fatality rate. We did everything we could to treat infected individuals, leaving no stones unturned and leaving no one behind. We drew on a combination of Chinese and Western medicine, and the state bore all the expenses associated with treating the patients, so that we were able to improve the cure rate and reduce the fatality rate to the fullest extent. We focused on research and development in conjunction with clinical treatment and prevention and control protocols. We developed a testing kit at the earliest opportunity. We accelerated the research and development on effective medicines and vaccines, thus making sure that science and technology play an important role in underpinning and enabling our nationwide response. We rapidly put in place a nationwide information sharing mechanism and released relevant information in a factual and transparent way. Throughout all these months, we constantly think about the safety and the health of overseas Chinese communities, and we did everything we could to protect them, and we sent health kits to overseas Chinese communities, and we helped those Chinese nationals in need to return to China in an orderly fashion. In light of the evolving situation, we adjusted the focus of our efforts to preventing importation of cases and resurgence of domestic cases. We shifted emergency response to the new normal of regular control so that we could detect cases and handle them promptly and control outbreaks in a calibrated fashion and treat cases in an effective way. CPC organizations and governments at all levels and government departments and agencies across the country responded to the call of duty. Villages, communities, enterprises, health institutions, research institutes, schools, universities, and military barracks all played their due role. Under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee, the whole nation took unified orders, made all-round arrangements, and adopted multi-pronged measures. We were able to effectively prevent the large-scale outbreak and blunted the trajectory of the virus to the largest extent possible. We protected our people's lives and health. In the face of the unexpected outbreak, the Chinese people shared will and woe and united as one. We built a strong defense against the coronavirus. Wuhan and Hubei were the main battlefields in stopping the outbreak. A nationwide victory hinges on the effort in Hubei, and Hubei's efforts, in turn, hinges on effective response in Wuhan. People across the country rushed to the provinces and the cities' rescue. We mobilized and deployed resources from across the country. In just over 10 days' time, we built the Huoshenshan Hospital and the Leishenshan Hospital from scratch. We converted 16 facilities into cabin hospitals. We created over 600 isolation centers. 19 provinces, regions and municipalities across China provided targeted assistance to the 16 cities and prefectures in Hubei other than Wuhan. The best experts, resources, and equipment were rushed and deployed to the province and the city, and in the shortest time possible, we overcame the short supply of medical resources and other supplies and achieved a balance in supplying these critical provisions. People across all sectors of life stepped up to the plate. State-owned enterprises and public hospitals shouldered their responsibilities. Over 4.6 million primary-level party organizations helped with the effort, and over 4 million community workers across 650,000 urban and rural communities patrolled day and night. Private businesses and hospitals, charities, nursing homes, and welfare facilities also pitched in. A great many party members and officials set examples. PLA and People's Armed Police and Public Security officers and men stood in the front line of the battle. Scientists poured their wisdom. Millions of express delivery persons crisscrossed the country. Over 1.8 million urban cleaners worked from dawn to dusk. Newsmen visited communities, and hundreds of thousands of volunteers and ordinary Chinese were quiet heroes in this nationwide effort. The entire nation cheered and rooted for Wuhan. And people said to the residents in Wuhan that the whole nation will wait for you to recover from the epidemic, and we will meet each other again when there is cherry blossom in spring. The infected individuals in Wuhan were boosted by such words of encouragement. They say, "Thank you for not giving us up, and after I recover, I will donate blood." And all across China, people had confidence that Wuhan will definitely prevail, Hubei will definitely prevail, and that China will definitely prevail. The people of Wuhan and of Hubei understood the big picture and the stakes involved. They braved risks of infection and fought in an indomitable spirit. They subjected themselves to the overall imperatives of fighting the outbreak, and they made major sacrifices and contributions to stopping the virus and to the nationwide victory in fighting COVID-19. In the face of the unexpected outbreak, medical workers all across China, like soldiers fighting a ferocious enemy, braved risks and saved lives. Millions of medical professionals across China fought in the forefront of the battle. They brought light to us in moments of darkness, and what they did moved a whole nation. 540,000 medical workers in Hubei, including in Wuhan, fought in close encounters with the virus. 346 national-level medical teams, made up of over 40,000 medical workers, rushed to Hubei and Wuhan. On the eve of the Chinese New Year, when they were supposed to get together with their family members, medics in the People's Army, Bearing in mind the mission of the People's Liberation Army, they responded to the call of duty, they rushed to the scene, and they put themselves into the struggle and won it. The medical workers in China, with their devotion to the people and respect for life, worked around the clock, day and night, even though they were reaching limits, both physically and mentally. We still remember the marks left by tight masks on their faces, and the fact that sweat blanched their hands. We will never forget that some of them gave their lives in the line of duty. With their flesh and blood, the medical workers in China built a great wall of iron and steel that stood in front of the virus, and they saved one precious life after another. In so doing, they've shown us their humanitarianism and boundless love. The medical workers in China have a great sense of responsibility. Comrade Zhang Dingyu, who suffers from ALS, said that I must race against time in order to save more lives. At the same time, the medical workers in China have shown great humility. Comrade Zhong Nanshan has said, "Actually, I'm just a doctor who helps my patients." But the people see them as a comforting presence and trust their lives to them. The medical workers in China are angels in every sense of the word, and they are our dearest in this day and age. Their names and contribution will never be forgotten by the country, by the people, and by history, and their names will always be recorded in the annals of the People's Republic. In the face of the unexpected outbreak, we balanced different imperatives and made coordinated progress on all fronts. We were able to stabilize and improve the economic situation and steadily restore the order of production and life. We kept a close eye on the evolving situation, and we focused on the big picture. We made timely, major decisions to balance COVID-19 response and economic and social development. We acted in line with law and science, and we implemented locality-specific and risk-based strategies to resume life and work, and we provided for the people's lives and livelihoods. We strengthened macroeconomic policy response and ensured stability in 6 key respects, and completed and worked hard to complete the 6 priority tasks. We adopted policies to provide relief and benefits to struggling businesses, and we adopted steps to strengthen employment, investment, and consumption, and to stabilize external trade, inbound investment, and industrial and supply chains. We encouraged the growth of new business models and worked for the orderly return to normal of transportation, catering, markets, and the cultural and tourism sector. We implemented a package of policy measures to support Hubei's development, and we are resuming school terms and classes in a staggered fashion. We will push forward poverty eradication with even greater determination and intensity of efforts, we will support the revitalization of poverty eradication industries. We will help poor workers find jobs, and we will work hard to prevent a lapse or relapse into poverty because of the outbreak. China has become the first major economy to restore economic growth emerging from the outbreak, and we are leading the world in both COVID-19 response and economic restoration. It shows the great resilience and vitality of China. In the face of the unexpected and serious outbreak, China worked with countries around the world to tide over this difficult time and contributed China's wisdom and resources to the global fight against COVID-19. We acted in an open, transparent, and responsible fashion and actively fulfilled our international obligations. We reported the outbreak to the World Health Organization and the relevant countries and regional organizations at the earliest opportunity. We shared with the world the sequencing of the virus right away, and we shared China's diagnostic and therapeutic protocols with the world. We organized over 70 sessions with experts from other countries and international and regional organizations. We've created an online knowledge center which is accessible by all countries, and we have shared prevention and control experiences without reservation with others.
Despite the many difficulties in domestic COVID-19 control, China has done its best to provide assistance to the international community. China has pledged a total of $50 million cash assistance to WHO. China has sent 34 medical expert teams to 32 countries and 283 shipments of medical supplies to 150 countries and 4 international organizations. China has provided and exported anti-epidemic materials to over 200 countries and regions. From the 15th of March to 6th of September, China has exported a total of 151.5 billion face masks, 1.4 billion protective gowns, 230 million protective goggles, 209,000 ventilators, 470 million testing kits, and 80.14 million thermometers. We have given strong support to global response to COVID-19. China has advocated the joint efforts to build a global community of health for all. And China has put forward proposals relating to international assistance and vaccine development. With concrete efforts, China has helped to save tens of millions of lives around the world. With concrete efforts, China has shown its genuine commitment to building a community with a shared future for mankind. Comrades, friends, the younger people represent the future of a country and a nation. In this battle against the COVID-19, we've been heartened and moved by our younger generations. Nearly half of the medical professionals fighting on the front line were born in the 1990s or even in the first decade of this century. One thing they have said has moved the whole nation. They said to their elders that in 2013, when SARS hit, you protected us, and today it is our turn to protect you. And their elders replied, if there are angels, then they are those kids putting on doctors' white gowns. The world has no heroes parachuting from the sky. What it has are ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The younger generations, fearing no hardships and sacrifices, have shouldered heavy responsibilities. Their courage has inspired us. They have shown us a great future of the Chinese nation. They deserve our praise and our warm applause. Comrades, friends, the major strategic gains we have accomplished in the battle against the COVID-19 have testified to the great strength of the CPC leadership and our country's socialist system, fully testified to the great strength and resilience of the Chinese people and the Chinese nation, fully testified to the profundity of the Chinese civilization. They have fully demonstrated the strong sense of mission of China as a major responsible country. They have greatly strengthened the confidence, pride, unity, and solidarity of the whole party and all ethnic groups of the nation. They will inspire us to overcome all obstacles and forge ahead in our new journey in a new era. Comrades, friends, in this fierce battle against COVID-19, the Chinese people and Chinese nation have shown the heroic courage to fight and to win. Together, we have forged the great spirit of putting lives above everything else, coming together as one, risking one's own life to help others, respect for science, and looking out for each other. Putting lives first has exemplified the tradition of kindness of the Chinese people and the people-centered approach of the Communist Party of China. Kindness to others means loving others and helping others. Virus is ruthless, but people have compassion and feel for each other. Lives are most precious. People live only once. A life lost can never return. When people's lives are at stake, we can and we must protect them at all costs. The guiding mission of the Communist Party of China is to serve the people with all our heart. And our country is a socialist country where the people are the masters of their lives. We made the decisive move to suspend outbound travels from Wuhan and Hubei and put in place unprecedented, rigorous quarantine measures. The decision took enormous political courage and resolve. But to safeguard people's life and safety, we are ready to make any sacrifice. From newborn babies, only 30 hours old, to centenarians, from international students in China to expatriates. Every life has been protected, valued, and respected. This is at the heart of the people-centered approach of the Communist Party of China. This is deeply rooted in the morality of the Chinese nation. And this illustrates the Chinese people's reverence for lives. National solidarity has unlocked the great strength of the Chinese people, united as one in a testing time. Faced with a dangerous virus, and despite the physical and mental discomfort caused by several months of quarantine, our people have shown no fear, but the tenacity to rise to the moment. Some were fighting on the front line, others standing fast at their own post. In their own ways, they have all pitched in the response efforts. Across our country, the Chinese people have worked as one for each other's well-being, for the honor of the communities, and for the safety of our nation. Doctors and nurses, service personnel, rescue workers, volunteers have all joined the battle. The CPC members took charge on the front. The frontline responders worked around the clock. The 1.4 billion Chinese stood shoulder to shoulder, side by side. Together, we have sent one message: unity is strength. Risking one's life to help others has exemplified the tenacity of the Chinese people to prevail over all difficulties and to never yield to any obstacle. At the critical moment when COVID-19 struck, heroes emerged nationwide. People fighting the virus on various fronts put themselves in harm's way and risked their own lives to save others and meet their responsibilities of COVID-19 response. A hospital principal who saved many of his patients but lost the chance to save himself. A young man who would never fulfill his wedding promise to his fiancée. A mother, but also a medical worker who made ultimate sacrifice on line of duty and would never return for her young kids. Faced with a ferocious disease, the Chinese people did not flinch. Instead, we have met the tough challenges head-on, writing another inspiring and heroic chapter in our history. The Chinese nation has gone through trials and tribulations, but is always able to emerge with greater resilience. It is never because of any favor. It is because our tens of thousands of ordinary Chinese stepping forward and forging ahead against all odds. Respecting science has exemplified the character of the Chinese people to seek truth and explore new frontiers of knowledge. Faced with an unknown infectious disease, we kept to a science-based approach. We have used the laws of science to inform all aspects of decision-making, treatment, research breakthroughs, and social governance. In the absence of proven and effective medicines, we harnessed both traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicines. We have developed 8 editions of therapeutic solutions, and the Chinese and Western medicines and therapeutics we have proven effective have been adopted by a number of countries. Mobile hospitals were built in just a few days' time. Multiple techniques were deployed for vaccine research. Nucleic acid testing has been given at a vast scale. Big data has been used for tracing and health code recognition. And we also adopted tiered and region-specific strategy for COVID response, restored economic activities steadily and safely. All these reflect our people's reverence for science and put our COVID response on a strong scientific basis. Looking out for each other has exemplified the values of the Chinese people to unite in difficult times and our love for peace. A noble cause enjoys broad support. Great love knows no borders. Guided by our vision that the world belongs to the one same family, China is fulfilling its responsibility for the life and health of its own people and for global public health. We launched the most intensive and broadest covering emergency humanitarian action since the founding of the People's Republic. We have contributed to global COVID-19 response on a constant basis. We have fully displayed the image of a major country that values good faith and friendship, promotes justice and the greater good. We have shown our pursuit of common interests and our commitment to building a community with a shared future for mankind. For individuals, inner strength is important. So is for nations. Only with inner strength can a nation stand firm and steadfast in the tide of history. To overcome difficulties requires material strength, but also tenacity and perseverance. Our great spirit that we have forged in this battle against the COVID-19 is deeply rooted in the national character of the Chinese nation and our cultural DNA. It is the continuity and development of patriotism, the commitment to common good, and the socialist values. It embodies the Chinese spirit and adds new dimensions to our national character. We must promote this great spirit across the society and turn it into a strong morale that drives us forward in building a modern socialist country and toward the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Comrades, friends, as an ancient Chinese adage goes, that to know if the taste of something, you need to try it. And to know if a road is bumpy, you need to walk on it. In this heroic battle against the COVID-19, we have accumulated important experiences and we have drawn profound inspirations. This heroic struggle against the COVID-19 has proved once again the strength and resilience of the Communist Party of China. The party is the most reliable mainstay for the Chinese people in difficult hours. The CPC has its foundation and its roots in the people. We do everything for our people and by relying on our people. That is why we have received wholehearted support and firm support from our people. And this is the broadest and most profound basis for the party to lead the country. From the beginning of this fight against the COVID-19, the CPC Central Committee has rallied all party members to let the party flag fly high on the front line of the battle. It fully shows the devotion and sense of mission of CPC members. In fighting against COVID-19, the CPC members have kept to their founding missions and fully played an exemplary role. Over 25,000 applicants became full party members on the front line of the battle against the coronavirus. It is the CPC's leadership and the support of the Chinese people for the party that has enabled China to accomplish the miracles of fast economic growth and enduring social stability, and enabled us to defeat floods, SARS, earthquakes, and crises and challenges, and has enabled us to win this battle against COVID-19. In the past, at present, we know that when we unswervingly uphold the party's strong leadership, keep on strengthening the party's ability to lead politically, guide through theory, organize the people, and inspire society, keep the close ties between the party and the people, we will be able to forge strong synergy and prevail over complexities, risks, and challenges of all kinds.
The heroic battle against COVID-19 proves once again that the unyielding will of the Chinese people is the source of strength for defeating all challenges and obstacles on our way forward. The tribulations that put the Chinese people to the test have also made us stronger. It is thanks to the unbreakable will and resolve of the Chinese people to fight against all odds that we have been able to stand and struggle against the invading foreign powers, make sacrifices for the country when it was torn apart by war, strive for development while the nation was mired in poverty, and keep abreast with the times in an ever-evolving world. This is why the Chinese nation could stand proud among the world's nations. Over the centuries, the Chinese people have been famous for a strong vitality, profound unity, great resilience, and enormous creativity. And we are all proud to be Chinese. Both history and reality show that when we depend on and work heart and soul for the people, and bring out the unyielding will of the people, we will see the overwhelming majority of the people stand together in great unity and create new glories for the Chinese nation. The heroic battle against COVID-19 proves once again that the significant advantages of the socialist system with Chinese characteristics are the fundamental guarantee for fending off risks and challenges and enhancing governance efficacy. An important standard for measuring the quality and success of a country's system is whether the country could rally and organize the whole society to overcome major risks and challenges together. With China's socialist system, we have extraordinary capacity to mobilize, coordinate, and enforce. And we can pull the strength of all to get the major, difficult, and urgent things done. Our fight against the COVID-19 epitomizes such advantages of China's national and governance systems. Both history and reality tell us that by sustaining and improving the socialist system with Chinese characteristics, modernizing our governance system and capacity, and utilizing the strength of our system in the face of risks and challenges, we will be able to withstand one test after another, turn crises into opportunities, and emerge stronger time and again. The heroic battle against COVID-19 proves once again that the solid national strength accumulated since the founding of New China is the profound underpinning for navigating waves and storms with calm. Over the decades, China has established a substantial material foundation, a complete industrial system, a strong technological capacity, and a rich reserve of medical resources. Together, they provide a robust underpinning for our response to COVID-19. After the outbreak, we swiftly mobilized personnel, material supplies, technological research, and transportation from across the country to battle the virus. At the height of the situation, the pause button was pressed in many aspects of China's economic and social development. But people's life was not dramatically disrupted, and society carried on in general. This is fundamentally attributable to the comprehensive national strength that China has accumulated since the founding of the People's Republic, especially since reform and opening up. It is attributable to China's ability to fully utilize that strength in the face of danger. Both history and reality tell us that if we unleash social productivity, continue to strengthen economic, technological, and comprehensive capacities, deliver more benefits, greater happiness, and a stronger sense of security to the people, and enrich the material foundation for upholding and developing socialism with Chinese characteristics and the great renewal of the Chinese nation, we will be able to ensure steady and sustained development of socialism with Chinese characteristics despite the challenges along the way. The heroic battle against the COVID-19 proves once again that the cultural strength of the core socialist values and the fine traditions of the Chinese culture is a powerful force that pulls together the hearts and hands of the Chinese people. Cultural confidence represents the most fundamental and profound force that sustains the development of a country and a nation. A culture of self-improvement and self-discipline serves as the crucial bond for a country and nation to pursue a shared future. The Chinese nation is a patriotic nation. The Chinese people value the common good above one's own interests. We believe every Chinese has a responsibility for the nation's future. We advocate partnership and solidarity in times of difficulty and looking out for each other, especially the elderly and underaged. We believe in the unification of freedom and self-discipline and of rights and responsibilities. In the fight against COVID-19, the 1.4 billion Chinese people have displayed a great spirit of responsibility, self-discipline, sacrifice, and friendship, and forged a powerful defense with unity and solidarity. Both history and reality show us that by nurturing and practicing core socialist values and carrying forward the fine traditions of the Chinese culture, we will be able to culturally inspire the Chinese people of all ethnic groups and consolidate the cultural foundation for the Chinese nation to forge ahead in unity. The heroic battle against COVID-19 proves once again that the common pursuit of building a community with a shared future for mankind is the right way for tackling humanity's common challenges and building a more prosperous and beautiful world. In a way, the onslaught of COVID-19 is a reminder to the world that humanity is a community with entwined shared future. In the face of major crises, no country can go it alone. But solidarity and cooperation is the only way forward. Those seeking selfish gains, scapegoating others, and twisting facts will hurt not only their own country and people, but also the people around the world. Both history and reality show us that when the international community comes together in the spirit of community with a shared future, uphold multilateralism and solidarity and cooperation, the people of the global community will be able to overcome all kinds of global issues and build a shared, beautiful home on our planet. Comrades, friends, the profound, once-in-a-century changes in our world are accelerating, and the task to deliver reform, development, and stability at home is arduous. We are about to complete the first centenary goal and strive for achieving the second. And we must fully implement the basic theories, path, and guidelines of the party. Stick to the general principle of seeking progress while maintaining stability, and stay committed to the new development philosophy. We must foster a new development landscape, properly consider both the domestic and international situations in our work, ensure both development and security, and modernize our governance system and capacity in order to make continued progress in the undertakings of our party and country. To that end, we will allow no relent in regularized epidemic response and strive for the full victory against COVID-19. The virus continues to rage globally, and the risks of sporadic cases and local clusters at home remain. A full victory against this disease requires continued efforts. We must continue to be cautious, work hard to prevent case importation and domestic rebound, and properly adopt normalized, calibrated measures and local emergency responses. We can never allow the hard-won progress to be wasted. We need to step up research and development of medicine and drugs, medicine and vaccines. Carry on with the patriotic health campaign, build better public health facilities, and raise health awareness among the whole society. Only with all the individuals, families, and communities playing their part can we have a solid defense against the virus. We will ensure stable employment, finance, foreign trade, foreign investment, domestic investment expectations, safeguard job security, basic living needs, operations of market entities, food and energy security, stable industrial and supply chains, and normal functioning of primary level governments. Secure the victory of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects, and strive to eliminate absolute poverty. We will strengthen our confidence, redouble our efforts to make up for the time lost and remedy the losses to COVID-19. We will establish medium and long-term mechanisms to coordinate the epidemic responses and economic and social development. We will continue to focus on supply-side structural reform, deepen reform and opening up, and resolutely expand domestic demand, which should serve as a strategic base. We will protect and reinvigorate market entities, ensure full delivery of macro policies, and enhance the stability and competitiveness of industrial and supply chains. We will single out the prominent issues and weak links in our drive to eliminate absolute poverty and tackle them with our best resources. We will always think for the safety and well-being of the people, help resolve the people's real issues such as employment, income, schooling, social security, medical insurance, and housing, and take solid steps to protect and improve livelihoods. We will shore up the weak links in the governance system more quickly and strengthen the institutions for protecting the people's health and safety. The fight against the COVID-19 is a comprehensive test for our governance system and capacity. We must seize the opportunity to shore up the weak links and plug the loopholes, expedite the improvement of the relevant mechanisms and institutions, focus on improving the preparedness and response for major public health emergencies. We need to build a powerful public health system, improve our disease prevention and control system, and establish a major system of epidemic response and treatment that serves both before and during an epidemic. we need to strengthen the legal safeguard and scientific underpinning for public health, upgrade our capacity of emergency supplies reserve, and consolidate the society-wide collective epidemic response. We need to improve the urban management system and urban and rural community system, raise the awareness of full-cycle health management in cities, and improve the overall efficacy of social governance. We will pay great attention to biosafety risks and upgrade our country's biosafety defense capabilities. We will uphold the vision for a community with a shared future for mankind and work with the international community to tackle the increasingly daunting global challenges. China will continue to advance international cooperation against COVID-19, support the World Health Organization in playing a leading role in the global response, and share containment and treatment experience with other countries. We will continue to provide help to vulnerable countries and regions, leverage our role as the world's largest supplier of anti-epidemic materials, and advance the building of a community of health for all. We will expand mutually beneficial cooperation with countries around the world, continue to advance economic globalization, firmly uphold the multilateral trading system, and maintain the safe and smooth operation of global industry and supply chains to bring back a prosperous world economy at an early date. We are prepared to work with other countries to make global governance more inclusive, multilateral mechanisms more effective, and regional cooperation more active. We will jointly address regional disputes and global issues such as terrorism, climate change, cybersecurity, and biosafety to create an even brighter future for humanity. We will hold on to our bottom lines, stay vigilant against potential danger, and effectively prevent and resolve various risks on our way forward. Rainbows appear after rain, and opportunities are behind challenges. Such are the laws of the dialectic that are also true for the past century of the CPC history, for the last 7 decades of the People's Republic, and the 40-plus years of reform and opening up. None of them have been a smooth sail. Those who do not crave the easy way out will succeed, and those that take challenges head-on will make progress. We will adopt the dialectic methods in understanding the domestic and international situations, and institute strategic, systematic, and forward thinking in the study and planning. We must be prepared in thinking and action for a relatively long period of changes in the external environment, and do a good job in creating new opportunities amid crises and opening up new prospects in the changing landscape. To overcome the challenges, we must be brave in mind and adept in skills. We must adapt our tactics to the evolving situation, unite all who can be united, and mobilize all enabling factors to secure victories in the many great undertakings that bear the mark of our time. Comrades, friends, our ancestors taught us that just as The heaven maintains vigor through movement. A gentleman should constantly strive for self-perfection. A nation is great only if it never gives up, never backs off, and never ceases moving before any challenge or risk, and always fight for its own future. In the 5,000 years of history, the Chinese people and nation have come through tribulations and glories. We will now forge ahead and continue this extraordinary journey in a new era. No individual or forces will be able to stop the Chinese people from marching toward a better life. Let us be united even closer in the heroic spirit displayed in fighting COVID-19, and act as one to complete the building of a moderately prosperous society in all respects, and eliminate absolute poverty. Let us write a new historic chapter in the new journey toward a modern socialist country in all respects.
Comrades, friends, in his important address, General Secretary Xi Jinping has recognized the major strategic outcome in China's fight against COVID-19, reviewed the extraordinary journey we have traveled, distilled the great spirit shown in fighting the virus, summarized what we have learned from waging the struggle, and spelled out in clear-cut terms requirements for COVID-19 response and economic and social development. General Secretary Xi Jinping's address is rich in ideas and offers practical guidelines. I ask the whole nation to study it very carefully and to fully implement it in the light of realities. Let us rally even more closely around the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core. Follow the guidance of the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, strengthen four consciousnesses, four confidences, and two upholds, carry forward the spirit shown in fighting the coronavirus, remain vigilant, maintain stability in 6 key respects, and try to complete the priority tasks in 6 areas. Let's eradicate extreme poverty in China and fully establish a society of moderate prosperity, and let's build a strong modern socialist country that is prosperous, democratic, culturally advanced, harmonious, and beautiful, and let us achieve the great Chinese dream of national rejuvenation. Here we come to the close of the National COVID-19 Response Honors and Awards Conference. Thank you.
That was an awarding ceremony for those who made outstanding contributions in China's fight against the COVID-19. The event took place at the Great Hall of People in central Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping presented the honors and delivered a keynote speech. Now, for more insight, let's talk to our guests in the studio. So, Dr. Gao, President Xi Jinping says China's fight against the COVID-19 has achieved a crucial strategic achievement. Now, what does this entail?
Absolutely. This is a major occasion on which China as a country, the Communist Party as the ruling party, and President Xi Jinping as the top leader in China celebrated the great achievements. I would say this achievement cannot be done without a very comprehensive, all-encompassing strategy, starting with, let's say, putting science first, but also mobilizing all resources. Everyone needs to be mobilized. No single person, no single entity could be left out. Therefore, it reflects China as a comprehensive power in the sense that it can have such a delivery capacity, mobilizing capacity to stop the chain of spread of this virus and making sure, as President Xi Jinping correctly pointed out, saving life is the top priority. And saving life has become a core part of human rights in China. Preventing people from getting infected with this virus is in China as what we consider a very important part of human rights. If you fail this as a government, as a ruling party, you fail your basic mission as a government or as a ruling party. And I think in this sense, this is a great occasion of rejoicing for the whole nation. And it's a day of great dedication of our gratitude to everyone who has participated in this great effort to cut out the spread of the coronavirus. And I think the nation has been rejuvenated because we now see where China is so strong and how the government can rally the people and why the people need to make sacrifices and self-discipline to make sure that every one of us will pitch in, everyone contributes, but eventually the whole nation, the whole country benefit a great deal.
But let's remember that it's not a time to be complacent because China has now entered a period of regularized epidemic response. That means prevention and control measures could be part of our daily life. So, Dr. Cao, what are the challenges ahead as the pandemic is still raging in so many parts of the world?
Well, although inspired by the ceremony, it also reminds us that we should get fully prepared for the upcoming autumn and winter season. On the one hand, the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and no country now today can stay exempted from the other parts of the world. So in the near future, we will still keep a close eye on those imported cases and prevent the incoming cases. And on the other, as we still don't know many things about the virus, sporadic local outbreaks could be possible in the future. So that is another important task we should keep an eye on. In addition, as mentioned in the ceremony, we will develop the vaccine and essential treatment for the disease. However, although confronted with the unknown future, we are confident that we will win the fight as we had won before. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cao Wei and Professor Victor Gao there. And that's it for this edition of special live coverage on CGTN. Before we go, let's take another look at heroes who fought in China's tough battle against the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Pan Deng in Beijing. Bye for now.